Hello students, welcome to NSC Biology. This is Neelavati, your biology lecturer. So today I am going to start a new chapter from class 10th biology syllabus, that is nothing but control and coordination. So it's a one shot video for board exam. But remember, while explaining the concept, I am not only stick on to board part, okay, that is your board exam part. Along with doing this, I am going to give information that should be helpful even for your upcoming competitive exams like a NEET or other state entrance. Okay, so that's why whatever the things that I am going to teach here, please make a note that definitely helps you in your future. Okay, and already you have watched the video of life process. So there I have explained the concept by drawing diagram. So those diagrams are my handwritten diagrams only. So like that itself, here also in this chapter, I am going to explain all the concept by drawing diagram that you can see on the screen. Okay, because for many concept, that is while providing the information in our textbook, the diagrams are not given. But as a student, if you just keep reading textbook, definitely you are going to get confused. So if you get confused, you can't understand the concept. And if you can't understand the concept, of course, you can't do well in your exam. So that's why if I explain the concept by drawing the diagram, so that if it retain in your memory, you can answer any sort of question if it comes in your exam. Okay, so that is what the thing that I am going to do here. So one thing you have to do is you have to watch complete video without skipping anything. And after watching video, you can read your textbook so that you can understand each and every line as well as every word. Okay, and of course, after watching, if you like the video, please don't forget to hit the like button and do subscribe to our channel, and please do share it with your friends also. Okay, so without making delay, let's get inside the chapter control and coordination. Yes, when we just look at the title control and coordination, control is it's a general word, we can understand. Then what is coordination? You might have come across with the term coordination. That means while doing any task in your school, so my friend coordinating me very well to complete this task. So like that, you are going to use this term, right? But when it comes to our body, when it comes to our organs, what is exactly this coordination means, right? So here to make you understand, I'm going to give an example. Imagine you and your friend, you are just walking on a street. Okay, so there a dog is having its food. Let's assume like that. So one of your friend just throw a stone over it. Then what the dog will do? It will just give a look. Don't do it again, right? But still, again your friend is going to throw another stone on it. Then again it will give an angry look. And after that, if you keep doing the same, will the dog remain calm? Definitely not. It is going to start chasing at you guys. Correct? So immediately, when you saw that situation, you start running from that area. Correct? So here, your eyes saw that situation, the whole scenario. The eyes have been utilized in that part. Whereas, when you start running, your legs, that means the muscles which are present in your leg, start doing your work, that is running work. But do you think only these two organs are involved here? That means your eyes saw, your legs start running? No. So while running, you need to get more and more energy because it's not a daily situation. Every day you are not keep running from school to home, right? So it's a rare situation. There you are running like anything. So your body demands more energy. So that energy will be provided through blood itself by pumping organ, that is nothing but through heart. So when heart pump the blood, it will be supplied to whole body. So your heart also included here. Your heart also involved in this situation. That's why your heartbeat increases. So do you think only glucose is enough to burn this glucose? What we require? Already we have learned in life process chapter. Of course, oxygen. So who has to supply oxygen? Of course, our lungs. Because when we breathe in the oxygen, that will be there in the lungs, and from the lungs it will be again carried into the blood vessel. It will be supplied all over the body. So of course, if you just look at your breathing rate, if you just carefully observe your breathing pattern, it will get varies. That means lungs also been involved here. And while doing this, of course, you are going to sweat a lot. So as you are sweating means your skin also involved. See, so many things are going to happen inside our body, but here only few things I have just mentioned. Okay. So let me repeat. So your eyes are the situation, your legs start doing that job, but along with these two things, so many other organs like heart, lungs, sweat, everything has been involved. That means they are coordinating for the situation. Coordination is they are actually helping each other. Correct. So this is what the coordination means. So such a coordination in our life, we are going to see for many situations, we come across with many situations, so that all organs are coordinating and make our body to function normal. Correct. Now the question is, who is actually coordinating, ma'am? Lungs are showing their breathing pattern differently. Heart is doing its beating rate differently. Who is actually instructing all those things? Somebody should be there to give a guidance for this coordination. So who is that somebody? In our body, actually this coordination process is done by mainly by two systems. Okay, what are those? One is by our nervous system. So whenever we talk about nervous system, we know that neurons are the cell involved in that, correct? So in class 9th itself, we have studied in our body, mainly 4 types of tissues are there. Our entire body made up of 4 types of tissues. Epithelial tissue, that is nothing but our skin and all. Connective tissue, that means your muscle as well as your blood, all these things are connective tissue. Then, what is that? Another one is epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue. Muscular tissue is actually muscle. Connective tissue is nothing but blood and all. Then the last tissue is nervous tissue. So here the nervous tissue made up of neuron. Tissue means it's a group of cells. So here the whole system which is so controlled by this neuron is nothing but nervous system. Okay. So here the cells are neuron. Now the question is how this nervous system is going to control our body. Because just now I told all these organs, if they have to work properly, somebody has to give instruction. Here that somebody is nothing but by a nervous system. Okay. So we will understand about these things in detail. But along with this thing, there is one more system is present in our body, which is actually control our whole body organ with the help of certain chemicals. Those chemicals we called as a hormone. Hope you know certain hormones name. In female body, the hormones which are so produced are quite different when compared to that of the male body. But there are few hormones which are present in both male as well as in the female. That is, they are same only. Because they have to cope up for certain situation. Because many hormones as emergency hormone, even you might have heard about the thyroid hormone, correct? So like that, there are so many hormones are present in our body. They're actually coordinating the whole system of our body. Okay. So that system is nothing but endocrine system. So endocrine system is nothing but controlled by chemicals called hormones. So little bit information is given in our textbook about hormones as well as this endocrine system. But we need to understand more. We need to give importance more for this nervous system. But remember, the same two system we are going to study even in class 11th when you take a science stream. Okay. So that's why it is very important to have a basic knowledge here itself. I have already done this chapter, nervous system, in class 11th. Even the chapter related to endocrine system in class 11th. So when you come to class 11th now, you can watch those videos. But if you want to become, master in such a chapter, then you should understand the basics. So here is the basics you can understand here. Okay. Done. So here I use the term neuron, right? So as we are studying about nervous system, without studying the structure of neuron, how come the concept will get complete, right? So now let's enter into the structure of neuron. In class 10th textbook, in this chapter, particularly they have not mentioned about this structure. They have not explained in detail about the structure of neuron. But remember, the structure is given in figure. That is in diagram part. Suppose if the question comes from the diagram based, then you are going to stuck there itself. So that's why I am going to explain the structure. It is a very beautiful and simple structure. Easily you can understand. But the thing is, you have to write down in your copy. Of course, the diagram is there in textbook also, but there you are going to get confused. Little bit confusion you can get. So that's why if you observe here carefully, you can understand each and every part, right? Okay. So whenever we talk about any cell, of course the cell must be consisting of cytoplasm. Outside boundary is nothing but cell membrane. Like that inside many organelles are present like nucleus, mitochondria, all those things. So like that also here it is a cell. It is having all those structure but the shape is quite different. Okay. Now look at here. Here you are going to see a spherical structure. So this spherical structure is called cell body or soma. So inside this, there is a nucleus present. So of course, a cell must be having a nucleus. Like that here also it is having nucleus. But on the surface of this cell body, there are so many branches are present. Okay, let me show like this. Look at here, like this. Like this branches are present. So these branches we called as dendrite. These branches are called dendrites. This is nucleus. So this whole structure is called cell body or soma. So of course inside cytoplasm is there. Okay. So imagine this is the cytoplasm. Right? Cytoplasm is not only restricted here to the cell body. In fact, it will be present inside the dendrite part also. Okay. Now the structure further elongates. It further get elongate like this. So inside this structure also again cytoplasm will be present. Now this elongate part is known as axon. Okay, what is the very simple structure? So axon finally has to get terminate in any other part, right? So here that part we call it as nerve ending because this nerve or this neuron is going to get end at the last part. Therefore, it is called nerve ending itself. So it's something looks like this. Okay. And here in the nerve ending, there is a enlarged part is present like this. Enlarged part. It is called synaptic knob. Okay. Because after one neuron, there is another neuron will be present. Right? Between those two neurons, there is a space present. I am going to explain. Don't worry. That space we call it as a synapse. So therefore, this part we call it as a synaptic knob because it looks like a knob. That's why. Now, inside the synaptic knob, there are certain spherical structures present. Can you see here? These spherical structures are called vesicle. As they are present within the synaptic knob, of course, you are right, these vesicles are called synaptic vesicle. So, they play a very important role. So, if our body is controlled by the neuron, means it is basically by these vesicles because they are going to secrete certain chemicals. So those chemicals, we call it as neurotransmitter. They are going to give instruction to our body. For example, imagine if you get a very good score in your exam. So if your parents, your neighbors, your friends, if they start appreciating you, automatically your body language will get changed. If your parents, if they start appreciating like you, for example, look at my son by comparing with other students. Look at my son, how good score he has got in class 10th. See, he should be like a role model to others. Then automatically your head get rises. You are going to be show some body language with a very pride. Correct? So this is because this vesicle, which is so going to secrete a chemical called dopamine, it is going to release by that time. But every time it is not going to release. Every time your body language will not be like that. You will be normal. But only in certain situation, when somebody start praising, when somebody start appreciating, then you automatically your body language get changed. You start feeling proud yourself. Why? Because of certain chemicals, they are going to make us to behave like that. Okay. So like that, if I take some other example, say for example, in a very panic situation. The same example we can take when a dog starts chasing, a mad dog starts chasing at you, then you become so panic, you become so scary, that's why you start running. By that time, there are certain chemicals which are so secreted here in this vesicle, they are going to release. So those chemicals will be in the form of adrenaline, okay, noradrenaline. They are emergency chemicals. So the same chemicals even release in the form of hormone also, that I am going to explain, don't worry. Like that, depending on the kind of situation, our neurotransmitter, which is so secreted by this vesicle, are going to release into the body. Therefore, we are going to behave like that. Okay. So, imagine these are the chemicals which are present inside. They are called neurotransmitters. So, they are mainly responsible for all our actions, all our activities. Okay. So, this is what the simple structure of a neuron. Hope it is very clear. Right? But in our textbook, there is a term given. In the neuron part itself, they have mentioned a particular structure. And they have mentioned that part as myelin. And there are certain neurons, we call them as myelinated neuron. Then what does this myelin means? Let us understand the difference between myelinated as well as non-myelinated. Before going to this, let me show our textbook diagram. Look at this. This is the neuron structure. So till now what I have explained, this is the nucleus, this is the dendrite, this is cell body. Okay. And axon I have explained, nerve ending I have explained. But on the surface of this axon, if you observe carefully, you can see the purple color structure here. Correct? On the surface, it has been coated like this. This structure itself, we call it as a myelin. Then what is myelin? That I am explaining. Please make a note of this. Okay? That. Very simple, very easy structure it is. So this is what the simple structure of neuron, just now I have explained, correct? Nucleus, cell body, nerve ending, axon, everything. Imagine there is a balloon, okay? So let me consider this as a balloon. This as a balloon. Now instead of calling this as a balloon, let me give a special name to this. That name is nothing but Schwann cell. What is the name I have given? Schwann cell. But you have to imagine this Schwann cell is like a balloon. Now I am having it. Now I am going to blow this balloon. I am just elongating at one end. I am elongating it at one end. Then obviously it is going to show a tail-like structure like this. Correct? Now in this tail part, so let's assume I have just filled some white color substance. If the white color substance I am going to fill, then you just call it by a technical name called myelin. Okay. So this white substance itself we call it as a myelin. Now you take this balloon along with this myelin. Now you just wrap around this axon. Okay. Or else you do one thing. So this head part of this balloon you just retain here. And now what you should do, take a tail part. Let's assume this is the tail part where the white color substance is present. Now by taking this tail, you just wrap around this axon. Okay. So imagine it's something like this, right? If you wrap, it will come in this way. Okay. Now take another balloon or another Schwann cell. It is Schwann cell only. Let's consider like this. And again the tail is there. Myelin part, just wrap it like this around this axon. Like that, another Schwann cell and the tail, wrap it around the axon. Correct. So what the technical term I have used here? Myelin. So this myelin which is present along the axon, therefore I should call it as a myelin sheath. Correct. So this is a myelin sheath. Now what about this, ma'am? What about this part? That is the head part. Now you take this head, you just place over it. Then how it looks? Now I am rubbing this part. I am rubbing. Okay. Now if I take a tail, if I just placed on the surface of this, it's something looks in this way. Correct? So like that, for every Schwann cell, if I place on the surface of this myelin, then it looks in this way. Correct? So such a neuron where myelin sheath is present, which is actually a white color material, then such a neuron we call it as what? A myelinated neuron. Now it is a myelinated neuron. But in our body, all the neuron, it's not mandatory that it should have a myelin sheath. Correct? There are certain neurons, they say, we do not need myelin sheath. We will be present as it is. Look at here, the previous diagram. Here I have not mentioned any myelin sheath. Correct? It is a normal neuron. then such neurons are called non-myelinated. Okay, they are non-myelinated. So got the difference? Myelinated and non-myelinated. Now we need to understand one more important term called synapse. So here I am explaining the basic terms. So if you understand these basics now, then while reading textbook, all the things become so easy for you. So that's why please listen to me carefully. You may feel that, oh, ma'am is telling something extra which is not actually relevant to our class. Don't consider like this. So when you understand each and every term what I am explaining, then only you will become a master in your biology, though it is a class 10th. Okay, so don't neglect any part. So what is another term I said? Synapse. What is this meaning, synapse? Let us understand. This is one neuron. This is the nerve ending of this neuron. This is the dendrite part. Okay, so like that, there is one more neuron is there. Nerve ending. This is the dendrite part. So here, between one neuron to another neuron, the gap which is so present, no? This is what the gap. This gap itself we call it as a synapse. What is synapse then? The gap between two neurons. Now the question is, what is the importance of this gap? Why this gap has to present? So for that, I need to make you understand with an example itself. Okay. So let's assume you're just watching a TV. All of a sudden, a cockroach just fall on you. Just fall on your hand. Okay. So you will become so conscious. Your skin, which is so considered as a sense organ, start analyzing it. It starts sensing it. Oh, something has fallen on you. Then immediately what happened? Immediately what you are going to do? With the help of another hand, you are just going to throw it out. Correct? That means for that stimulus, the cockroach which falls on you, that is the stimulus. And the response, what you did, you just throw this out, throw this cockroach out. So that is what the response. So how it happened? For that stimulus, how we are going to do response? This is because of the neuron. Okay. So here in the neuron, certain signal is going to generate. So that signal we are going to call by a term called impulse. Or else, how we can able to sense it? So it should analyze the thing, right? So this impulse will be generated in the form of a electrical impulse. It is an electrical impulse. So let me show here itself. Imagine this is the neuron which is present on your left hand. Okay. And of course, if I am saying the neuron is there, the dendrite must be there on that neuron. So this is the neuron of my left hand. So on this neuron, that is on the skin, which is so having the neuron beneath this, which sense the presence of cockroach on it. So imagine this is a cockroach. So when cockroach falls on, it sensed it. So immediately the signal from the dendrite, this is dendrite, right? That will be transmitted throughout the neuron like this. So this signal itself, we call it as an electrical impulse. This is an electrical impulse. And after this electrical impulse, here, while explaining the structure, I told that there are certain chemicals are present in the form of neurotransmitters. So those chemicals will be pushed outside. Okay. Imagine the chemicals which are present inside, which has been pushed outside. Where they have been dumped? They have dumped in the space called synapse. It is a gap. So this impulse, we call it as a chemical signal. Okay. So this chemical signal, again, they are going to sit on the surface of another neuron, dendrite. So again, this dendrite analyze, okay, this is what the signal. Again, it is going to transmit in the form of electrical impulse. Again, it will be continued throughout the neuron. Again, it will push us the neuron, which is so having the chemical inside it. Again, it will push and these chemicals will be dumped inside this, become chemical signal. Again, it will convert it into electrical impulse and it will be run throughout the neuron. Okay. So that's why the presence of synapse is very important to communicate between two neurons. Right? The chemicals, if it has to dump here in this space means there should be some gap. Right? That gap itself we call it as a synapse. Now let us understand what exactly this electrical impulse means. Okay. So detailed information is not given in our textbook, but little bit I am going to tell so that you can understand the things. Okay. Let us understand the transmission of these nerve impulse. Nerve impulse can be chemical as well as the electrical itself. First, let us understand what exactly electrical impulse means. Okay, look at here. Do you know that in our body, electricity is generating? Do you believe that? Of course, I know you are not believing. Ma'am, if I touch anybody's body, do you think I am going to get any current shock so that you are telling electricity is generating? No, my dears, it is not like that. So, electrical impulse generation means movement of charged particles. In our body also, the charged particles means what? Ions. See, sodium is an ion, which will be having positive charge. Chlorine is an ion having negative charge. Potassium is an ion which is having positive charge. Bicarbonate is an ion which is having negative charge. So all these ions are present in our body. If these ions start moving in and out of the cell, no, we call it as charged particles are moving, electricity is generating. So how it is going to happen? First, let us understand with a simple example. Later I will show you by taking neuron how it is going to happen. Imagine this is our cell. This is our cell, and on the either side of the cell, the area which is so present, it is nothing but fluid will be present here, everywhere. So in the first chapter itself, life process itself, I have explained about this fluid, extracellular fluid, while explaining the lymph part. If you have not watched that video, please go and watch that. It is very important video for your board examination point, and even to understand many basic things, that video is very, very useful. Okay. Now, either side of the cell, tissue fluid is there. Okay. So, what do you think the tissue fluid is having? Of course, it is having many ions. These ions will be there. In that also, particularly, sodium ions are present in a very large quantity. Okay. So, these sodium, they want to get inside. So that is what their main aim is. So they want to get inside. Imagine there are so many students, they are just standing on the corridor. So they are just waiting for the classroom door to get open. So when the door of the classroom gets open, immediately they will get inside the class, right? So like that, these ions, sodium ions, they are just waiting. Okay, to door, that means to get inside the classroom means nothing but the cell. So that when they get inside, automatically the electricity is going to get generated. Electricity generation means here certain things like a contraction, relaxation, these things are going to get happen. Here we are going to use the term electrical activities taking place. Okay. So imagine how they are going to sense. That means they have to enter inside, or we need to allow these ions to get inside. There are certain doors present. So instead of calling door, we are going to use the term called channel. Okay, so here certain channels are present. These are the channels. So these channels are meant for sodium only. Therefore, we can call it as a sodium channel. Okay, but unfortunately, these channels are always been closed. They're always closed like this. So if they have to open the door, that means if the channel has to get open, somebody should give an instruction. Imagine at a home, of course, door will be there. Simply during night, we are not going to open the door, right? Unless somebody should press the calling bell. So, when somebody press the calling bell, so we can come to know that yes, somebody came, we need to open the door. Correct? So, like that, here also, who is acting as a calling bell here? There are certain protein structure present. Okay? Imagine, these are the proteinaceous structure. Remember, these terms are important. These protein structures are called receptor. So these receptors are like a calling bell. Assume like that. Now on this calling bell, when sodium comes and sit here, that means when somebody press the calling bell, no, like that when sodium comes and sit, means it is pressing the calling bell of this receptor. Immediately this receptor gives signal to these channels. So these are sodium channels. Now these channels get alert, they come to know that yes, we need to open the door, we should allow the sodium to get inside. Then automatically when it get open, sodium get inside the cell. Understood now? Sodium ions start getting inside. So this is what the thing is going to happen even in our neuron also. When the sodium get inside, we can say that electrical impulse generated. Understood? Now the same thing, if I have to show it by drawing neuron structure, the same thing I can mention. Okay, something it was like this. Now let me consider only one dendrite I have drawn here. Let me consider. So here on the surface of entire neuron, of course it is also cell, the sodium channels are present like this, but it is closed. Okay. And here outside the cell, interstitial fluid will be there and it will be having lot of sodium ions. Now, when cockroach falls on your hand, immediately dendrite got the signal that yes, somebody got sat on my hand, I need to make this channel to get open. Okay, so when it opened the channel itself is a sodium ion channel. Okay, so here this channel has got opened and sodium which is so present here, they start entering inside. They start entering inside from these channels. That means here electrical impulse generated in the cell body. Now this electrical impulse, it has to transmit throughout the neuron. So transmission means everywhere the sodium which is so present, now it has to enter through all these channels. So how it is going to happen? Very simple. Imagine I have entered inside a hostel. So from the main door itself. Now I need to wake up all the students who are there in the hostel, but their room has been closed. So what I will do? Very simple. As I have entered inside, no, I just knock the door of all the rooms and immediately all the students will open their door and they will come outside. Correct? So like that here also. As these sodium start moving inside like this, they start keep knocking the door of these sodium ions and they start opening it. So when they open the door, immediately all these sodium ions start entering inside the neuron. So when they enter inside, automatically here throughout the neuron, throughout this neuron, let me take another color. Yes, throughout the neuron, the electrical impulses start produced and they start transmitting. So why they have to transmit? What is their main aim? Their main aim is to push the neurotransmitter which is present in the synaptic vesicle. Okay, so this is what the synaptic vesicle have shown, right? So let me take only 3 synaptic vesicles. So let's consider these are moving and finally they are come near the synaptic vesicle. So inside the vesicle, the chemicals called neurotransmitters present. Correct? So now they are pushing these vesicles. When they push the vesicle, it will attach to the membrane of the synaptic nerve and they start coming outside. Okay? So here also, the electrical impulse keep pushing this vesicle and make the neurotransmitter to release outside. That means this region, imagine there is one more neuron is present next to this, like this. So chemicals have been released here. So the chemicals which are so released, we call it as a chemical signal. So how this chemical signal generated here? Because of the electrical signal only. Correct? Now these are the chemicals. So chemicals are releasing means chemical signal generated here in the synapse. So now what this chemical is doing? Because everywhere the cockroach cannot enter inside the hand so that it can't touch all the neuron, right? Okay, I am coming. So only it can sit on the surface of the hand. The sensation, it has to pass throughout our neuron till it reaches the brain, till it give command to another hand. Correct? So for that purpose, the release of this chemical is very important. Now this chemical go and bind to another neuron which is present next to it, like this. Okay, so here also so many receptors are present on the surface of this dendrite. Now these chemicals come and sat on the surface of this receptor. Again, pressing calling bell concept, the same thing. Again, they are going to open the sodium channel. Again, the sodium is going to enter inside the another neuron. Again, the electrical impulse start moving. Again, it dump the chemicals which are present in another neuron. They are going to release the chemical signal. So like that, it will be transmitted throughout the nervous system till it reaches where? To the brain. Because brain is our central part of the nervous system. It's like a CPU. It start analyzing the thing. It start processing the information. Then it start give a command, that is nothing but instruction, to another set of neuron which is passing towards the other hand. Then it says, okay, this is the right situation, this is the right time. You don't wait for a minute, just throw it out. Then my other hand will just throw out this cockroach. Okay, so this is how our neuron signal will work. Hope I'm very clear about this. Okay, now this type of signal or this type of stimulus, it is not only through skin, it is from different sense organ. Correct? So what are all the sense organs we have? Once again, this neuromuscular junction I will come later. We have 5 sense organs. Correct? Here just one sense organ example I took, that is the skin. But apart from skin, we have so many other sense organs also. 4 sense organs we have. What are those? Eyes are one of the sense organs. So we are going to see the things. So when you see the things, the information will be sent to our brain. Okay? So it start processing it. So relevant to that particular stimulus, you are going to do response. For example, if you just look at any glass pieces which are just present on the road, you are going to lift your leg. You are not going to walk on this because your eyes which are saw that glass pieces will send the signal where? To the brain. Then brain will give a suitable command, suitable instruction to your hand, that means your leg, so that you have to lift your leg or just move aside. Don't put your step on the glass piece. Correct? So those signal are the stimulus. The glass piece that you saw, no? First that stimulus go and sit on a chemical, that is protein structure called receptor. Okay, I told what a receptor means. Here there is a special receptor present on a special sense organ. For example, if I take eyes, on the surface of the eyes, that is within the eyes, the receptors which are so present, we are going to give a special name. That name we call it as a photoreceptor. Okay, so like that. Here is also sense organ. We are going to hear the things. So you are hearing my words, you are listening the class. So there are suitable chemicals present. I mean proteinaceous. These are the proteinaceous structures called receptors present. So on these receptors, these signals are coming and sitting. Then it gives suitable instruction. Oh, ma'am is telling, I need to make a note. Then you start making a note. So those receptors which are present in our ears are called phonoreceptor. So you can easily remember, phone is the tongue. It is usually relevant to ear only. So it is called phonoreceptor. Like that, the sense organ called nose, which could able to sense the smell. Either it is a good smell or a bad smell. Oh, some good flavor is, smell is coming. I need to go to kitchen. So who is going to recognize? That is by olfactory receptor. So those signal will come and sit on those receptor. Then it will give instruction to the brain. Okay. So imagine if it is our nose. If the receptors are present like this. Okay. Then these chemicals which comes and sat on these receptor. To these receptors only the neurons are attaching. To these receptor itself, this is the dendrite, this is the cell body, and this is the axon. Like that, the receptors are present, which are attached to these dendrite. They get the signal. Okay, this is what a good smell. Should I go inside the kitchen? Should I have this? So like that, the instructions will be taken from these receptor and send to the neuron itself. Okay. So now you got inside the kitchen. You saw a beautiful, a nice dish has been prepared by your mom. So you are not going to wait for a single minute also. You're just going to have it. Correct? You taste it and you just give a compliments to your mother so that the food was so delicious, mommy. So how you could able to sense it? Again with another sense organ called tongue. So on the tongue, the taste buds which are so present, no? On the surface of the taste buds, the receptors which are so present, we call it as gustatory receptor. So name of these receptors are important. So again, it will send the signal. Suppose if it is a gustatory receptor. So till now, I said it was the olfactory receptor if it is a nose case. Now imagine I am talking about a tongue. So now in the tongue, this receptor is gustatory receptor. So it will start giving a signal to the neuron. Then only you start giving a compliments to your mother. Ma'am, the food was very nice, mommy. So these receptors will be attached to the neuron. Then only it is possible to respond to the proper stimulus. Okay, and of course the skin will be having thermoreceptor. Not only thermoreceptor, in fact, many other receptors are there. Touch receptor, pain receptor. Okay, so all those receptors are present. But here, just only one receptor name I have mentioned because for your examination point of view, this receptor is very important. But touch receptors will be present on the surface. Pain receptors will be present below this. That's why if anybody touch our hand, we won't feel pain. Correct? If somebody hits you very hard, then only we can able to sense the pain because the pain receptors are present below that. Okay? And of course, thermoreceptor means hot or cold objects. When you touch, we can sense it. There is a thermoreceptor. Understood? So these are the 5 receptors which are present on the sense organ, which can able to sense the proper stimulus, and to that stimulus we are going to do response. Okay, and here, so hope this part is also very clear for you. Now let's go back. Yes, this is our NCERT diagram. Textbook. In the textbook itself, this diagram is given, and here they have mentioned a term called neuromuscular junction. So axon we have understood, muscle fiber we don't know, but in class 9th we have studied about muscle fiber. What is muscle fiber, my dears? Imagine this is the hand of a person. Okay, so you might have seen that when you just fold your hand, your biceps are going to be visible, right? So let's assume this is the biceps. So before biceps, let me draw a bone, because to the bone itself the biceps are attached. Okay. Now here the muscle is present. So let's consider this is the biceps or muscle. Now if I just take out this muscle, these are the muscles. It is a tissue. Okay. It is made up of cells. Right. Now, if I just take out only one muscle cell, it is somewhat cylindrical in shape. It is somewhat cylindrical in shape and it consists many fibers. This cell itself, muscle cell itself, we call it as a muscle fiber. Okay. This muscle fiber, it will get contract. Contract means it will become reduce its size when it get a proper signal from the brain. Imagine, of course, why you have to imagine? Because it's my hand itself, you can see. Okay. Now you can see that I am folding my hands fingers. How it is possible? Because I am getting instruction from my neuron so that I need to fold my fingers to hold this pen. Correct. But I'm not going to contract like this throughout the day. So soon after finishing the class, if I just put the pen aside, of course my hands will be normal. I mean normal in the sense, I will just relax. So for a particular situation, if I get an instruction from the brain, I need to contract, I need to get relaxed. So this contraction and relaxation signal, that also be sent from the neuron itself. Okay. And imagine the instruction has been given to this muscle cell. Earlier it was like this. For folding purpose, it has to get contract. When it get contract, the size of the cell become in this way, it will become small. Correct. So relevant to this part, they are actually talking about this neuromuscular junction. What exactly neuromuscular junction? I will tell you. Okay. Okay, I will tell you here. Done. Now, imagine I need to hold a pen like this. For that purpose, I need to contract my fingers. That means muscles of my fingers I need to contract. So, the neurons which are so present in the brain, they are sending the signal so that it is coming, it is passing from one neuron to another neuron, one neuron to another neuron, like that it is coming till it reaches my fingers. Okay. Suppose if I consider it is one of the neuron of my brain. So, it got the signal. This is the nerve ending. It starts releasing certain chemicals that will be dumped here in the synapse. Now this synapse catches the signal from the dendrites. Again, the chemical signal converted into electrical signal. Again, it will be transmitted throughout this neuron. And again, the chemical will be pushed. That is the chemical signal dumped here. So like that, another neuron took up this signal. That is the chemical. Again, it is going to transmit electrical signal. Again, it is going to dump like this. Okay. So like that, it is coming from one neuron to another neuron, one neuron to another neuron. So finally, it is in this area where muscle is present. I'll do one thing. Now, I am just enlarging this part. I am just enlarging this part. Okay. This neuron I am writing here. for our convenience purpose, or else I am unable to show muscle cell here, that's why. Okay. Okay, so it got the signal on the receptor. So it will send in the form of an electrical impulse here, and finally which will push the neurotransmitter, which is having chemicals, and the signals have been dumped here in the synapse. Now next to this neuron, the muscle cell is there. Okay, so let's assume this is what the muscle cell. So on the surface of the muscle cell, the receptors are present. Correct. So here between one neuron or between the neuron and the muscle cell, let me write this part. So the gap which is so present, actually between two neurons, the gap which is so present, we call it as a synapse. Now between neuron and the muscle cell, the gap which is so present, this gap we call it as NMJ. NMJ means Neuromuscular Junction. It's a junction between neuron and muscle. Okay. Now in this junction, the chemicals called neurotransmitter have been dumped. So these chemicals come and sat on the surface of these receptors. So soon after binding of these receptor with the help of chemical, automatically the channel get open. Which channel it is? Yes, you are right. It is a sodium ion channel. It is present throughout the surface of the cell, which has been get opened. Now sodium which are so present inside, outside, they start getting inside. So when the sodium entered inside, no. So what the signal they got? They got a contraction signal. So that's why muscle cell automatically get contracted, their size become smaller. That is called muscle contraction. So that signal has been provided by whom? By a neuron. Through this junction called neuromuscular junction. So that is what. So hope this part is clear for you. Hope you have written everything in your copy without neglecting anything. So this part itself they have mentioned here. Okay. So they have elaborating and have explained that, but here they have shown on the surface itself. In fact, they are present on the surface only. They will be attached on the surface to release the signal. So then the muscles will become contracted. Can you see here within the synaptic vesicle, the small structures which are so present, these are nothing but chemicals. Okay, that will be dumped here. And when they get the chemicals, the mitochondria will also show certain reaction. So those things are irrelevant right now because we are going to study in detail in your upcoming classes. Okay, so hope I'm very clear about the neuromuscular junction. Now let's move on to the next part. This is over. Yes. Now let's talk about our entire body nervous system. So we all know that, of course, our entire body is made up of neuron only, right? So in your images, in many diagrams we have seen throughout the body the neurons are present. If the neurons are absent, then how we could able to sense the thing? Correct. So that's why these neurons which are so present throughout our body can be classified based on their location as well as on their function. Okay. So that is what we are studying now, division of nervous system. So before explaining this, let me draw the diagram again to explain this part also. Imagine this is a human being. So just now I told the neurons will be present throughout the body itself. Correct. But here the two parts which are so present in the central part of our body, that is nothing but the brain. This is our brain and this is nothing but the spinal cord. I am going to explain in detail about the structure of brain, but right now you just assume this is the brain part which is present in the central axis of our body. Therefore, these two parts are nothing but it is the central part of our nervous system. Okay. So what are these two things? One is brain, another one is spinal cord. Central nervous system can also be expressed in a short form called CNS. CNS. So these are central nervous system part. But these two parts, if it is present, this is not enough. Information has to come from this brain as well as the spinal cord to different part. So like that, it has to take the information from different part towards the brain and spinal cord also. So that's why, see, I'm a teacher. Okay. So every work, it's or else you do one thing. Imagine in your school, a principal will be there. Of course, he may teach, but to every classroom, he can't go alone and he can't teach, right? For every classroom, it is very impossible. That's why what he is going to do, he will appoint so many other teachers so that they can do the job of teaching under his guidance. Are you getting my point? So when he give instruction, oh, you are a maths teacher, you go and teach maths. You are a science teacher, you go and teach science. You are a social, you go and teach social studies. So like that, based on the instruction provided by the principal, the other teachers are going to do their job, right? So like that, other teachers, when they get any particular stimulus in the sense any information from the students, they can't take their own decision. They will come and convey to the school principal. So again, they are going to take the particular instruction from the principal. Okay, students are demanding for the holiday. Students are demanding for some cultural program. So what should we do? Then, after listening those words from the teachers, the principal is again going to give some command. Again is going to give some instruction. Correct? So like that here also in our body. So the brain as well as the spinal cord, it will collect all the information, and after collecting, it will give suitable command also to do a proper action. So that's why the brain and the spinal cord is not enough to our body. Other neurons which are arises from this part is also important. Correct? So such a neurons, we are going to give a name. What are those? Look at here. If the neuron arising from the brain, we call such a neuron as cranial nerves. Why particular cranial nerve? Why can't we say brain nerve? Because cranium is a structure which protects the brain. Look at here. If it is our brain, this is the forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. So like this, our brain structure is. So this entire brain part is going to protect by a bony case. Our skull is there, no? That itself we call it as a cranium. So therefore, we are going to give a name based on the cranium itself for these neuron as cranial nerve. Okay. So like that, from the spinal cord also, the neuron will be arises. See, from the spinal cord, the neuron will be passing to different part of our body throughout our part. See, it is passing. So these neurons, which are actually arising from the spinal cord, is known as spinal nerve. So entire nervous system can be divided into two parts. One is central nervous system, another one is peripheral nervous system. What is peripheral means? Which are arise from the either side. Which are present on either side, they are called periphery. Correct? If it is present in the center, they are nothing but central part. If they are present on either side of the central part, is called periphery. So neurons are present in the peripheral region, therefore they are called peripheral neurons. Neurons are present in the central region, therefore it is called central neurons or central nervous system. Okay? Central nervous system consists brain and the spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system consists cranial nerve and the spinal nerve. Very simple. So these two categories based on the location. So that is what I have explained here. Division of nervous system. So one is the central nervous system, which consists of brain and the spinal cord. Another one is peripheral nervous system, which is actually cranial nerve and the spinal nerve. So this is nothing but based on the location. Now, if I just come to this peripheral nervous system, so this part is also very clear. Look at here. Alright, let me go back to this part itself. So this is the peripheral neuron, I said, spinal nerves as well as the cranial nerve. Now, imagine you or else, okay, let me take a very good example. Imagine you have been given a task of just staring an object without blinking eyes. Okay, so this is the object, I need to stare it properly without blinking. This was the task given by me, given for me. Okay, now I'm just staring it. I'm staring it. How long I can do? There is a saturation for this also. Okay, and after that, of course, I'm going to blink. Correct? So the thing what I'm seeing, no, this one, the sense organ is taking. Sense organ means the neuron which is present in the sense organ eye, which is actually taking to the brain. This is my eye. So let's assume this is the neuron which is coming from the sense organ. which is going and giving the instruction to my brain. Brain is nothing but central nervous system. Okay, so this neuron, which is so actually coming from the sense organ like eye, and which is giving information, no? This is called a sensory neuron. Sensory neuron, which is coming from the eye itself and giving signal to my brain or the spinal cord, anything. Because it is a part of central nervous system. Now my brain is going to process everything. Okay, you need to stare it. Okay, you stare it. It will just give a chance. How long it is your eye is having capacity, you can just do that. And after that, the brain senses, okay, this is the time you are getting saturating. So you need to blink your eyelids. So then immediately from the brain itself, the neuron which is coming and connecting here. See, the neuron which is coming and connecting to the eyes itself. But it is taking the information from the brain. Here the information is taking from the sense organ and giving to the brain. Okay. But here the information taken from the brain and given to the sense organ. This is called motor neuron. Motor neuron. Are you getting? But both are actually part of peripheral nervous system. Are you getting my point? These two are nothing but cranial neuron only, because they arises from the brain itself, arises from the brain. One is taking signal to the brain, another one is bringing signal from the brain. So both are nothing but cranial neuron. Cranial neuron itself is what? See, cranial neuron arises from the brain itself. One is bringing, another one is taking. So that's why I can say motor neuron as well as the sensory neuron, both are the part of cranial nerve as well as the spinal nerve. That means it is a part of peripheral nervous system. Okay? Did you understand? Did you understand this? So that is what the thing I wanted to mention here. So from the central nervous system, some neuron actually bringing the information. Okay, they are called motor neuron. Bring information from central nervous system, and another neuron which is actually taking information towards the central nervous system are sensory neuron. Taking information towards the central nervous system from the sense organ. Okay, but both are what? Which are present on the peripheral region. Therefore, they are the part of peripheral nervous system. Clear? So, based on the function, again, if I want to divide this peripheral nervous system into two groups, then I can say one is sensory neuron, another one is motor neuron. So, sensory neuron, which is taking information from all the sense organ. Sense organ like eyes, sense organ like nose, sense organ like ear, skin, tongue. So from these sense organ, it is taking information towards the central nervous system. Okay, arrow mark should not come here. To the central nervous system. Now, after analyzing the signal, see, my brain is analyzing everything, or my spinal cord is analyzing everything. Now it is going to give a suitable command. So that command or that instruction which is so bring or coming from the brain as well as the spinal cord, which is the part of central nervous system, are nothing but peripheral nervous system only. We call it as a motor neuron. So now this motor neuron is going to see where I am taking the signal. Suppose if I am taking the signal towards the leg, or if I am taking the signal towards the hand, or the muscles which are under my control, are called somatic nervous system. Somatic nervous system means what? My eyes saw the situation that glass pieces are there on the road. Okay, so sensory neuron, that is the eyes, which are so coming from the eyes, which will give signal to the brain. So brain analyzed it, everything. Okay, glass piece is there. So brain send the signal towards the leg, that is from the neuron. That neuron is called motor neuron. So motor neuron is passing from brain and from different part of the body, and finally it reaches my leg. Okay, now it gives instruction to my leg that you have to lift your leg. So that's why I'm going to lift my leg. So it is under my control. Either I can lift or I can stand near to that. Correct? So it is under my wish. It is under my control. So it is not involuntary. Involuntary means what? without under my control, it will keep doing its work. For example, see, I am chewing a food. Imagine I am chewing some food. Before engulfing it, correct? Before swallowing it, it is under my control. How long I want, I can just hold it in my mouth itself. Correct? I can just put the food in my mouth itself. But soon after swallowing it, it is not under my control. After swallowing it, the muscles which are so present in my esophagus, stomach, everything, everywhere muscles are there. So these muscles start showing the movement. Already we have understood that in nutrition chapter itself, life process. That is called peristaltic movement. It is not under my control. So that is also signal sent by the neuron itself. That is from the brain itself. Okay. So if the signal or the action which is under my control, that neuron is called autonomic nervous system. Are you getting my point? My brain is sending signal to voluntary organs like leg or muscle, leg or hands or something. That is voluntary muscles. They are called somatic nervous system. They are actually bringing information to voluntary muscles. Okay, let's recall the dog situation itself. So I am running by looking at the dog. So my muscles are actually working. I am running fast. My hands are moving. My legs are moving. So here, which neuron are actually taking information? Somatic nervous system. So like that, the brain even has to give information to the heart. You have to beat fast. Lungs, you have to breathe fast. Okay. So it is not under my control. So heart, how much it want to beat? Based on the instruction given by brain, it will beat. Lungs, how much it has to respire? Based on the brain function, brain's instruction, it will do the function. So those neurons which are actually coming, giving signal to involuntary organs. Involuntary muscles are visceral organs. Visceral organs means what? Your heart, kidney, lungs, etc., which are not under our control. So those neurons which actually bring are called autonomic nervous system. So this is what the two part. So this much is enough for you. Okay. So please make a note of all those things. Now let's move on to the spinal cord part. Okay. Yes. What is spinal cord? One more important part of our central nervous system, that is nothing but spinal cord. So let's consider this is a brain of a person. I'm not drawing the structure of a human being, but you can assume it's a brain. Okay. Now let's consider this elongated part which is actually emerging from the brain. This part itself, what you are saying, it is nothing but our spinal cord. Right? Now, what I'll do, let me cut this part. Let me take a transverse section of the spinal cord and let me see what are the things present inside it. Okay. Suppose if I cut, I can say the thing which is present inside it, right? Imagine this is a pen. This pen itself is a spinal cord. If I just cut this pen, then if you just look from the front view, obviously you can see the things which are present inside. Okay. So like that, here I am going to show what the things present inside this spinal cord. Okay. So this is the TS of spinal cord. Very easy topic. Easily you can understand. So inside some halo thing you can able to see, but it is not a halo. Here there are neurons are present. Okay, neuron structure already we have studied, but this neuron which is so present inside, which give a shape like a horn, something like this. Can you see? Like this structure, we could able to see inside our spinal cord. Now, if I have to mention the dorsal as well as the ventral view, then I can consider this top portion as a dorsal and this one is nothing but the ventral surface. Okay. Now the question is, ma'am, just now you told that the neurons are present. Where the neurons are present? So you know the structure of neuron. If I have to show a typical structure in a rough sketch, I can show something like this, right? So this would be the cell body and these are the dendrites which are arises from the cell body itself, and this would be the axon and this is the nerve ending. This is what a typical structure, right? Now here also this part It is almost looking like a H shape, correct? So this is looks somewhat grayish in color. So therefore, this part we considered as the gray matter. Why gray matter? This is because just look at this upper part. What is this part? This is nothing but the dendrite as well as the cell body. Correct? Now, if I take a blue color, consider this blue color itself as a gray color. Now, if I just make this dendrite as bluish in color, as well as this axon as bluish in color. So, this entire axon is bluish in color. And if I take one more neuron, and there also this axon, this dendrite, this cell body, everything, if I just make it in blue color, and this axon is as usual whitish in color, then if I group all these cell bodies as well as the dendrite, and if I place inside here, that is in the center, obviously this portion looks in this color only, right? That means what I wanted to tell is, in this region, the cell body as well as the dendrites are combined and give a color like this. Okay, so let me show. Imagine, now I am taking the purple color. Imagine this is the cell body and this would be the dendrite. Cell body, dendrite, cell body, dendrite, cell body, dendrite. And now the axons are coming like this of these neurons. So obviously the outside we could able to see white color only. And like that, some of the neurons which could be go up because they are moving upside also. It is not mandatory that it should go in this direction only. Some of the neurons may go up like this. That means in the center, we could able to see the gray color. Now, just to make you understand how it looks, I have used this purple color. But apart from that, this is gray color only. Now, I am just using this blue color itself. Here, everywhere, the cell body has been combined. Even if some other neuron are present, along with their axon, but they are very less in number. But majority have been combined with the cell body as well as the dendrite. Therefore, it appears gray color. Whereas outside, what you are seeing, this part, which actually appear white color, no? Therefore, it is called white matter. White matter, gray matter. So, this is important. You should know all those things. Okay. Now, let me talk about the relationship between this brain as well as the spinal cord, so that we can understand how they are going to converse each other, how they are going to communicate each other in certain situation. Okay, let me explain by taking one example. Hope this part is clear for you and you have written this in your copybook also. Let me move on to the next slide. Yes, what is the relationship between brain and the spinal cord? Now, I am going to take the spinal cord cross section itself. I am not going to draw the spinal cord like this. I am drawing this spinal cord. At the same time, I am going to take a brain also. Okay. So, why I have explained this structure? Because in our textbook, they have just given the diagram, but they have not explained anything. But if any question comes based on this, you will get stuck over there only. That's why if you get the explanation, if you understand this part, then it would be easy for you to answer any sort of question, right? Now, let me take this as a spinal cord, okay? Let me consider this as our spinal cord. This is going up like this. This is the spinal cord. And here on the top, the brain is there. So let me consider this as our brain, right? Shall I write this? So already we came to know that the peripheral neuron which also arising from the cranium in the sense from the brain as well as from the spinal cord, that will be runs throughout our body. Suppose if I consider only the spinal nerves. So all the spinal nerves, there is nothing but peripheral nerves only, that will be connected ultimately to spinal cord itself, right? Look at here. Okay, now look at here. So this is the brain. Let us forget about brain. Let us talk about only spinal cord. Imagine the neuron is coming from the leg, that will be attached to spinal cord. The neuron coming from this hand attaches to spinal cord. Neuron coming from different organs attaches to spinal cord like this. All the neuron which are coming from different parts of the body, that will be attached to spinal cord like this. Correct? So these neuron itself could be either sensory neuron or motor neuron. That is what we have learned just few minutes back. Correct. Now, let me take an example of this hand. This is a hand of a person. Okay. So neuron coming from this hand also connecting to this spinal cord. Okay. Now let me take the same example of a cockroach. First, let me draw a hand of this guy. Now this hand is connecting to this spinal cord. Hand is not actually connecting to spinal cord. The neuron which is present inside the hand is connecting to spinal cord. But just to make you understand, I am attaching this hand. Okay. Inside I need to draw gray matter also. Yes. Now, let me take the same old example of cockroach. Now you are watching some TV or you are doing some work, all of a sudden cockroach fall on your hand. Okay. So here the cockroach is there which fall on your finger. So on the surface, of course on the skin, receptor will be there. It is going to sense that cockroach is falling on you because touch receptor will be there. Either for a touch or for a pain, pressure, anything, the receptor which are present on the sense organ, they could able to sense it. That is what we have learned. Okay. Now the receptor present on the surface of the hand, that is in the skin itself, could able to sense that, oh, something has fallen on my hand. So what is that something? The something is nothing but this cockroach. Okay. Now immediately I got the sensation. Correct? So now here from the receptor, the sensation will be received from the neuron. So here is the neuron. Imagine which color shall I take? Okay. Here the neuron is there. This neuron has catch the signal so that the nerve impulse is transmitting throughout this neuron. That is nothing but electrical impulse is transmitting. Now one more neuron, this is the end of this neuron. Now the next neuron is there. In this neuron the chemical signal has been dumped. So it is going to receive the signal and again the impulse will be transmitting like this. So now the next neuron is there. So this neuron is going to accept the signal and again here one more neuron is there. It's a cell body, everything. Correct? So now the axon of this neuron is rising upward because it is not just one neuron, remember my dears. It's a group of neurons. If I am saying here one neuron means here group of neurons is there. Here also so many neurons. Here also so many neurons. So many neurons. So here also the group of neuron which is so there, the group of neuron is sending signal and some of the neuron axons are sending downward also. Are you getting my point? For example, if there are 100 neurons are there, 50 neurons axons are going upward and remaining 50 neuron axons might be moving downward. Understood? Now, here the sensation of this cockroach has been passing from neuron to neuron, neuron to neuron. Ultimately, it has been reaches to spinal cord. Correct? So, the neuron which is so taking the signal of the sensation is obviously which neuron it is? These are sensory neuron. Correct? Now, the sensory neuron is even taking the signal towards the brain also. Okay? So, let me show like this only. Directly, let me show like this. The signal has been reached. And here in this part, the signal when has been dumped, one more neuron is there. This neuron has again took the signal from this neuron. Now, this neuron which is so taking the signal, that is also nothing but sensory neuron only. This is also sensory neuron. But the signal which is finally accepted from the brain here itself, no, this we call it as associated neuron. Associated neuron or interneuron. Interneuron, why? Because it is present between two neurons, that is sensory neuron as well as the motor neuron. Now it is going to analyze everything. Okay, what is this? Oh, whether it is a cockroach or it is a snake or it is a lizard. So it is going to analyze. Suppose if it is a snake, immediately it will give something else. The signal will be too dangerous. It will give a signal that, okay, this is snake, it is too dangerous, you just get off from that place. But this is a cockroach. Now the brain is going to analyze. It is just a cockroach. Nothing to worry. You just throw it away. Just shake your hand. It will just move away from your place. So such a signal, if it has to come from the brain, means it has to be get analyzed. It has to get integrated within the brain. That is done by this interneuron or associated neuron, which is present between these sensory neuron as well as another neuron which is so taking the signal. So who is taking the signal? Motor signal. Now this neuron is going to give the signal in the form of chemical so that the signal will be form of command. What is that command? Okay, nothing to worry. It is just a cockroach. You just move from that place. Or you just shake your hand. That's it. The cockroach will, obviously, it will just move away from that place. So that neuron, which is so taking this command, no? See, this is what the neuron, which is taking this command or the signal from the associated neuron. This is our motor neuron. So this motor neuron, again, it is going to give the signal to another neuron. Again, this signal will come and dump here into this spinal cord. Again, one more neuron will be there in the spinal cord. That is going to take the same signal, motor signal only. Again, it is going to give to another neuron. Here, cell body. Again, another neuron. Like that, the neuron is passing like this. See, it is giving signal to all these neurons. So these neurons are motor neuron itself. Now it will give signal to the muscles. Nothing to worry. It is just a cockroach. You can just shake your hand. Obviously, you can become free from this cockroach. So here the information is running from the hand, that is through sensory neuron, and reaches to spinal cord. Then it moves towards the brain, and there once again sensory neuron, associated neuron. Then the signal taken from the motor neuron again coming back to this spinal cord, again to the hand itself. Okay, so this is how they are going to communicate, they are going to interact for the situation. But every time this is not the scenario. Imagine instead of a cockroach. Now let me take one more example. Your mom has cooked something, or she might have done something on the hot tawa. Okay, so hot pan, the pan is very hot, the tawa is very hot, so that she has just put an omelette over it. Now she has taken, the tawa is very clean and it is empty. Nothing is there. But you doesn't know that it is actually very hot. Now, unknowingly, if you just touch that tawa, it's very hot. What you will do? Immediately you will take your hand back. Correct? You will pull your hand back. Why it is so? Because within fraction of second you will come to know that it is very dangerous situation. If I just keep my hand like that, of course it is going to get burned. Correct? In such situation, your spinal cord and brain will not take that much time to communicate. By that time, what happened? During emergency situation, correct? Just now, I took the example of this hot tawa, no? In such situation, the spinal cord itself is going to take the decision. It will not wait for the command given from the brain, because the thinking as well as the analyzing of this brain takes much time compared to spinal cord. So therefore, spinal cord says to this brain, let it be, I can handle the situation. Because it is an emergency. Suddenly I have to take the decision. So immediately, the neurons which are so present here, they are going to take the decision. So such an action, we call it as a reflex action. Okay, I will draw that also. Hope this is clear for you. Okay, so this information is given in NCERT, that is in your textbook, but not in detail they have made you understand. But through this diagram, hope it's very clear for you. Understood? Now, let me make you understand the reflex action just by taking the spinal cord, because there is no communication there between the brain and the spinal cord. Only spinal cord itself is taking the decision. See now, your finger touch this hot tawa. So immediately the receptors which are so present here are the receptors. These receptors going to got the signal that yes, it is very hot. So if I just won't take my hand back, if I won't pull my fingers back, of course it is going to get burned. Correct? So such a sensation they could able to receive through this receptor. So that signal will be passed from this neuron. Here is the neuron. See, I'm just drawing one neuron. This is one neuron which is actually taking the signal. Correct? To where it is taking towards the spinal cord. So like that, there are so many neurons are interconnected, but I am just taking only one neuron here. So what is this neuron we call? Of course, it is a sensory neuron. So this sensory neuron, it is actually taking the input, right? Input. Where? Towards the neuron which is present inside the spinal cord. This is our spinal cord. Now inside the spinal cord, so many neurons are there as I have told. So this is another neuron which got the signal. Some of the neurons axons are moving upward, some of the neuron axons are moving downwards. This is what. But now this neuron says, okay, I got the signal. Need not to send it back towards the brain because the situation is very emergency. If I just send it for the brain decision, he will get burn his hand. So that's why let me take the decision. So this neuron which is present within the spinal cord, right, itself acts as an associated neuron. Okay. So that is what I said. Majority of the neurons, axons will be present outside, but only few neurons will be present inside like this. So this neuron is nothing but what? It is an associated neuron. Now this associated neuron is going to analyze the situation. Okay, the situation is very dangerous. It is very, very hot. So you have to pull your hand back. So such a command is going to be given from this associated neuron to the motor neuron. The motor neuron will be present here only. So let me draw motor neuron also. Imagine this is the motor neuron. Okay, motor neuron took the signal. Okay, associated neuron, I got it. Let me send it to the muscles. Imagine here the muscles are there. Here the muscle tissues. Muscle itself, they act as an effector because they have to pull the hand back, right? The muscle should help to pull the hand back. So therefore, we call them as effector. So who is going to give signal to the effector? That is through the neuron that we call it as what? Motor neuron. Okay. So this motor neuron is coming and dumping the signal here. Neuromuscular junction between the neuron and the muscle, how they are going to contract, contraction signal. So this is motor neuron. So motor neuron is actually giving the output. Sensory neuron is actually giving the input. Now the signal is moving in this direction. Now the signal is coming outward. Coming outside. This is output. So this type of structure, what you are seeing, no? It's something like an arc. So the signal is going like this and finally it has been associated, integrated, and finally the signal is taken from this motor neuron given to the particular effector. So this arc we call it as a reflex arc. So this sudden response what you have seen, no? This is called reflex action. So hope this part is very clear. You have to write down in your copy without neglecting. So all these things are important. Understood, no? The same diagram is given in our textbook also. Look at here. So here they are showing some hot objects. Actually, it could be hot water or anything. Now a person, when he just touches it, the receptor which are present on the skin could able to analyze it. So that signal has been sent through sensory neuron because here the receptors are present. Now the signal is moving in this direction. See, finally it has been reaches to spinal cord. There, relay neuron, associated neuron, interneuron, all are same, one and the same. Now the signal will be analyzed here. Finally, it will send the command through this motor neuron. This is motor neuron given to the effector, that is muscles. Now he could able to withdraw his hand. So this arc itself we call it as a reflex arc. Okay. Now if I have to tell in the form of a definition, I can define like this. Reflex action is quick response produced by spinal cord without waiting for a brain. So this pathway, the way how they are moving, no, actually it is moving through sensory, then associated or relay neuron, then motor neuron, then to the effector. So this pathway, this whole journey, we call it as reflex arc, the pathway by which the reflex action is exerted. Right? So like such many examples we can take. You might be walking on a street, so some glass pieces are there. So you won't wait even for a second. Okay, so immediately you are going to lift your leg because you know that it is very dangerous if I just put my leg on the glass pieces. Correct? So like that, many situations you can take as an example for this reflex action. Done. Okay. Now let us talk about the most important part. Without this, we can't survive. So without this, I can't be here, you can't be there, you can't listen the class, I can't teach. What is that? The most crucial, delicate, important organ of our body, that is human brain. See, beautiful structure, it's a beautiful organ doing a lot of work. So this is one of the delicate and important organ. What it is going to do? It is going to receive all the information from all parts of the body. Of course, it is going to integrate it. Correct? Now, let us talk about our brain. Of course, just like other organs, we need to protect our brain also. How we are going to protect our kidney, our lungs, our heart with the help of skeletal muscle. You know that, no? Our lungs are going to protect by the rib cages, even heart also. So like that, our kidney, even the internal organs, overall stomach, intestine, whatever the internal organs you can take, all these are going to protect from the nothing but the skeletal system in the sense the bones. Like that, even our brain as well as the spinal cord also going to get protect from this bony structure. Okay. Suppose if I just draw the rough diagram of a brain like this, I'm going to do it in detail, don't worry. But if you consider, this is the forebrain, this is the midbrain, this is the hindbrain, like this. It's a simple structure. This entire brain is going to protect from a bony structure like this. Nothing but skull. Okay. But the skull is going to call technically as a word called cranium. So our brain is protected from cranium, nothing but the skull. It's a very hard bony case. But this is not enough for our brain. It even have some covering. So those covering, we call them as meninges. So totally there are 3 coverings are there. One cover is attached to the cranium itself. Look at here. Imagine this is the covering which is going to attach to the cranium like this. Understood? So this meninge in the sense covering itself we are going to call like this. This structure is called outer layer as dura mater. This is dura mater. Now, to the brain tissue itself, one more covering is going to attach, something like this. Look at here. It is directly attaching to the brain tissue. Understood? So this is the innermost layer. This is called pia mater. Right? Now between the outer and inner layer, the middle region is having some mesh-like structure. Understood? So this is the middle layer. Arachnoid. So total how many layers? Total dura mater outer layer, middle layer arachnoid, inner layer pia mater. So all these 3 structures together we call them as what? Meninges. Meninges. Now between these meninges fluid is present in order to prevent the brain from the friction or from any other damages. Something like this. Imagine here the fluid is present everywhere. So this fluid is called cerebrospinal fluid or CSF. Very simple structure. Dura mater, pia mater, arachnoid. Between that, the fluid is cerebrospinal fluid, okay, which is actually protecting. Now this cranium, it is a hard structure, right? And this cranium, which will be limited to this brain part itself. But when it comes to the spinal cord, so who is going to protect? Of course, you are right. It is nothing but vertebral column. Now, let me move on to the next slide. So, hope you have written this part. Now, imagine this is the brain part, okay? So, this much. Now, the next part, which is actually continuing this, no? This itself, we call it as a spinal cord. Now, the spinal cord is going to protect from the vertebral column. Something like this. It's something like this. Imagine this is a vertebral column through which our spinal cord is passing down. Okay? So like this, they are going to be protected. Understood? Now let us talk about each and every part in detail and even their function also. Okay? So before that, let me talk about the 3 parts of the brain. The brain itself consists majorly the 3 parts. So clearly in a schematic way, it's not given in our textbook, but it's important. But if you go through this video, no, you will understand everything. Okay, let me talk about the parts of the brain. Basically, we can consider It has three parts, very simple structure. Listen to me. For 5 minutes, you will understand. The first part is called forebrain. Second part is, yes, midbrain. The third part is hindbrain. Now, forebrain itself further can be divided into two parts. One is the cerebrum. It is the largest part of the brain. What you are going to see, in the diagram that is in the image, just like a noodles, it is nothing but the cerebrum part. If you cut this cerebrum part, imagine my hands, both the hands are cerebrum. If I just show, this is what the brain, both the hand itself. If you consider as a brain, you can't see the second part. Only cerebrum you could able to see. Correct? And another part, what I am mentioning here, diencephalon. This word is not given in our textbook, but it is important. Diencephalon, you are unable to see. Why? Because which is present inside. Imagine this pen is a diencephalon. How you can able to see this pen? Suppose if I cover my hand like this. Suppose if I take a new knife, if I cut my hand, the lateral section, then I can able to see, yes, the pen is there. So like that, the cerebrum is going to cover entirely. Because for that only we are unable to see this diencephalon. But trust me, inside the diencephalon, one more part is there, diencephalon. To this diencephalon itself, the structure like hypothalamus. Remember, these words are important. Hypothalamus is attaching. Pineal gland. This is also important part. This will be attaching there only. And another term called pituitary gland. Remember, they are attaching. We are going to study about this little bit later. But they are going to attach to this diencephalon part itself. Okay. Now, if I come to midbrain part, there is no any further division. Whereas in hindbrain, again there are three parts. What are those? One is the pons. Second one is medulla. Another one is cerebellum. So these are the three parts. So let me draw the structure of the brain so that you can understand everything. Okay. Done. So now, what I said, it looks like a noodles, right? Let me take that noodle color only. So imagine this is a noodle-like structure. Obviously, what is this structure we call? It is the cerebrum part. It is a forebrain. It is attaching in this way. But now, I have to see diencephalon. Therefore, I am just taking the lateral section so that I can see inside the diencephalon is there. So that's why imagine I have just cut this part so that I could able to see inside the presence of diencephalon. So now I could able to see the diencephalon in this way. Okay. Now to this diencephalon, this structure called hypothalamus is attaching. In fact, diencephalon means this hypothalamus, pineal gland, everything. So here the back side, this gland, what you are seeing, this is what the pineal gland. Okay. And to this hypothalamus, here another gland is attaching like this. This is called pituitary gland. Got this? Shall I mark? In fact, instead of calling this diencephalon, this area is actually ventricle. I'm not introducing the term. I know you are going to get scary because it's not for your age. But these three structures, hypothalamus, as well as this pituitary gland, along with this pineal gland, together we call it as what? Diencephalon. It is just a fluid-filled area. This area has been just filled by fluid. Okay, now, so forebrain part is over. So this part up to here, what you have seen, it's nothing but it's a forebrain. Now I am coming down for the midbrain. So when you just look at the midbrain, the structure is something like this. Imagine here the structure. So what you are seeing this structure, no? It is called midbrain. Okay. Now, after that, hindbrain. Hindbrain is having three parts, I said. So look at this part. So this is one part. This part is called pons. Let me take some other color. This part is called pons. Next to the pons region, medulla is present. And this is the cerebellum. Okay. So these three are nothing but these are hindbrain part. Done. Now let us talk about their function. What is the major role played by this different structure of a brain? But overall, if I say what is the function of a brain, it will do a lot of function. It can helps in thinking, it helps in decision making. So there is a part which what you are seeing in this region, this is responsible for our creative thinking. This is responsible for decision making. It is responsible for imagination. Okay. So like that, there are different areas present in the forebrain part itself. It is responsible for storing the information and even producing emotions, hearing, watching, listening, everything. There are different centers are there in the brain. Okay. And even I am standing like this. How it is possible? Because my brain is giving instruction to my body. My posture should be like this. When I walk, my walking style should be like this. When I run, my running style should be like this. Okay. So like that, every activity controlled by brain itself. Not only voluntary, even involuntary activities. That is what I am given here. It controls both voluntary and involuntary activities. So what are voluntary, involuntary activities? Look at here. So the person is walking, it's voluntary. Voluntary means it is under his wish. I am walking means it is under my control. If I want to stop, I will stop like this. Correct? So when the things are under my control, they are considered as voluntary action. See, the person is writing, it is a voluntary. Here they are dancing, it is voluntary. Here they are doing some work, it is voluntary. So all these things under their control. But there are certain functions which are done inside our body. It is not under our control. Look at here. The heart is beating. Suppose if I want, so let my heart beat fast. It is not under my control. Depending on the situation, it will do its work. Suppose if I get scary, if I get a panic by looking at anything, then it will automatically beat fast. It is not under my control. So like that, the lungs, they are expanding, they are coming back to the normal position. It is not under my control. It is doing their work under the instruction of the brain itself. And even the kidney, they are going to release the urine by filtering. It is also not under my control. Like that, the digestive system, the food what I am holding, suppose if I hold the food in my buccal cavity, till I swallow, it is under my control. But once I swallowed it, it is not under my control. Obviously, it will go by doing peristaltic movement. It will reach us the different organs. So these things, of course, they are controlled by the brain only, which is not under our control, are called involuntary activities. Okay. Now, if I just particularly enter to each part of the brain, that means what forebrain is going to do, what midbrain is going to do, what hindbrain is going to do, then we are going to study their function in that is separately. Okay, let us talk about that. First, let us talk about the functions of a forebrain. In fact, forebrain will do a lot of function. Majority of our body's function has been controlled by forebrain itself because it is having so many areas that I am going to draw. Wait for a second. Okay, look at here. So different area I have drawn. So if you just remember, that's enough. Need not to mark these area because this will not come to your exam also. But you should know what are all the functions of the forebrain. See, all the sense organs, majority of the sense organs are located here only. Our ears, our eyes, nose, the tongue, everything. Correct? So all these sense organs are going to receive the signals, that is sensation. For example, I am speaking properly. So if I am able to speak means there should be some area that should help me to speak well, correct? Or there should be some area that help me to understand the speech well. If you are saying something or if I am saying something, you should be able to understand what I am telling. So that area is located here called vernix area, which helps to understand the speech. So like that, here, this is the visual area, which is almost looks at the back side, located here. What are all the things that I could able to see, that sensation will be go to this area. Then Here associated neuron are there in this area. Associated area, they are going to analyze. Okay, so this is the pen. So my eyes are going to see this. It is going to analyze. Okay, this is the pen. She has holding like this. So she has to write. So now, when my eyes send the signal that this is the pen, this associated area is going to analyze. Okay, this is pen. So by taking this pen, you can write it on the smart board. Okay, not on a paper. So that work, that signal is given to the motor area. The signal will be sent here. After integrated from associated area, then from the motor area, so many neurons will be passing. It may be connected to my hand, it may be connected to my leg like that. So based on a particular situation, it will do the action. If I see a football, okay, my eyes are going to see that. Then visual area, which so send the signal, analyze it by the associated neuron, then it will send to the motor neuron. So motor area is going to give the command to my leg. Okay, so this is the football, you just kick it. I'm going to kick that ball. Like that, all these things are going to sense it, analyze it, and through motor area, motor signal will be sent to the respective organ. Like that, here the auditory area is there. It is responsible for hearing. What I am telling, it has been heard by my ears. Okay, then it gone to associated area. Okay, ma'am is telling to write down in your copy. Then it will send to motor area. Motor area will give signal that you have to write down in the copy. It will give signal to your hand. So like that, all the centers, majority of the centers located in the forebrain itself. And look at here, as I have told just now, this is prefrontal cortex, which is located here. So this is responsible for imagination. If I say, okay, king is coming, he is riding a horse. So we can imagine. Okay. So that imagination, creativity, problem solving ability, decision taking, everything is located in the prefrontal cortex. So this is what the functions of forebrain. And even the smell area, receiving the smell, that also located here only. Now, when I go to the hypothalamus part, it is also part of forebrain only, no? Pineal gland, pituitary gland, that I will come in the last part. That is in the endocrine part, because they are responsible for production of hormones. But these are part of neuron. So this hypothalamus says, I am going to feel the sensation of hunger. If I just look at any food, you can start feeling hungry sometimes. You may feel that, yes, my stomach is full. I'm not feeling any more hungry now. So that sensation is by hypothalamus. And even your body temperature has to be maintained, right? Suppose if there is more temperature outside, you are going to sweat a lot. So your body temperature will be maintained constant. Like that, if there is very chill outside, you are going to shiver. Correct? If the temperature is very less, you are going to shiver. Why we are shivering? What do you think of it? It is nothing but a kind of exercise our body is going to do in order to generate heat. So that is also by hypothalamus. It maintains body temperature also. Write down. Okay? And even the thirsty, all those things. Now when it comes to midbrain, you know, the midbrain is like this, a small box. So in the dorsal side of the midbrain, there are 4 bulge structures are located. So they are responsible for controlling auditory and visual reflexes. What is the meaning of auditory and visual reflexes? First, I will tell you about visual reflexes. See, when you just look at or if you are reading a book, okay, you are just watching those things, or you are reading, then we can't just nod our head like this, right? Every time while reading each and every line, we won't move our head. We are just going to show our eyelid movements, eyeball movements. Correct? So eyeballs are just moving like this, and even I can able to show movement of my eyelids. This is by visual reflexes. Movement of eyes as well as the eyelids. And what about auditory reflex? Auditory reflex means all of a sudden, imagine you don't know that all of a sudden cracker is going to burst in front of you. Okay, so you are in a very calm and soothing situation, but suddenly if a cracker bursts out, your expression will not be like this. All of a sudden you are going to show some shocking expression like, what is this? So this type of expression, what you are going to show, no, when all of a sudden, when sound comes, a blast occurs, that is called auditory reflex. Okay. Hearing is different. That is located in the forebrain. This auditory reflex means it is a sudden shocking expression because of a sound, right? These two Reflex is controlled by the midbrain. And of course, many neurons are passing from different area of the body to the forebrain and from forebrain to different parts of the body. It's like a relay station. Now when it comes to hindbrain part, particularly, so many involuntary activities. So pons function is not particularly have been mentioned, but you are going to learn in your higher classes. There are so many centers are there that I am not going to tell here because you are going to get confused. Let us move on to the medulla part directly. So this is medulla part which is present next to this pons, correct? So it controls many involuntary activity. There are so many centers are present for this involuntary activity. For example, if you are sneezing, the center is there in medulla. If you are coughing, the center is there in medulla. You are getting vomiting sensation, that is there in medulla, that center. And salivation by looking at any food, it is there in medulla. And involuntary activity, that is nothing but heartbeat as well as the lungs expansion. All those are involuntary activity. It is there in medulla. Here particularly they have mentioned heartbeat, breathing, everything. And even the blood pressure control, it is there in medulla. So these are involuntary movements have been controlled by our medulla part. So some of the involuntary movements indirectly controlled even by this pons region also. For example, breathing. So breathing controlled by medulla part particularly. It is controlling our lungs like this. So it gives signal to expand, but it won't say you have to relax. But who is giving signal? That is from the pons region to the medulla part itself. That's why I said some of the functions are interconnected that you are going to understand in your higher classes. Now when it comes to the last part, that is cerebellum, it is responsible for maintaining the posture. If I am walking, everybody's walking style is different, everybody's running style is different, everybody's standing style, sitting posture, everything is different. This is from the cerebellum. Okay, so maintaining a posture and a balance of the body. While walking, we won't fall. Why? Because they know how to balance your body when you are walking in a straight line, when you are riding a bicycle, correct? So this is by cerebellum, riding a bicycle, walking in a straight line, everything. So hope this much information is enough for your class. Now let's move on to the plant case, okay? Okay, now let's talk about coordination in plants. What exactly coordination in plants we are talking about? See, whenever we think about animals, we came to know that yes, animals are going to show coordination among their organs for a particular situation. That is nothing but what? Response to stimulus only. Response to stimulus. This is because they have a nervous system. And because of that nervous system, the muscles can do activities like running or anything, any sort of things as we have discussed just now. Okay. But in case of plant, if I say plants also do coordination for certain situation, then the big question mark comes into our mind that how it is possible? Because plants do not have any nervous system and they do not have any muscles to show the movement. But still we are saying that plants do show the coordination. How it is possible? Then we will come to know that plants also do response to a particular stimulus. Therefore, we are going to say that yes, in plant also this coordination occur. So here are a few examples. Because of that, we need to come to the conclusion that plant also do the process of coordination. Look at this. This is a sunflower, right? So we all know that sunflowers are going to bend their stem towards the sunlight. So how it is possible? That is nothing but they are showing the response. The stimulus here is sunlight. Though they do not have any muscles, though they do not have any nervous system, but still the stem is bending because of a particular stimulus called sunlight. So like that, if you look at this plant, it is a touch me not plant. Everybody have experienced this, right? By touching this plant leaves. So if you just touch the leaves of this plant, of course they are going to show the foldings. Why? This is because this is also response because of a stimulus called touch. Correct. Here also no muscles. Here also no nervous system. But still they are showing the response. So like that, look at this example. Here the seed is there. From the seed, the plant is germinating. Above we are going to see the stem part. That is a shoot system. And below the roots are growing. That is root system is developing. This is also response. But here the stimulus is what? The stimulus is a soil. Again, the plants are growing upward because of the sunlight. The sunlight is also stimulus, right? And here look at this, it is an insectivorous plant. When insects just sit inside, automatically they are going to close, correct? So here they are showing the closing movement, and again after digesting this insect, you have studied it in your lower classes, again they are going to open again, correct? So here who is the stimulus? The touch once again, that is insect only, right? So from these example, it is very clear that yes, plants also show response to a certain stimulus, though they do not have any nervous system and muscles, correct? But now if you just analyze all this example, some examples where the plants are showing the movement. Here also we are seeing the movement. The roots are moving, the stem is moving. Here also the leaves are closing, that is also kind of movement. And here in this part also the stem is bending, that is also movement. The leaves are folding, this is also movement. But when you categorize these movement into two parts, we can able to say that some movement responsible for a growth, some movement responsible, that means they are not associated for the growth. For example, look at this touch-me-not plant. Here, the foldings of leaf is not associated for a growth purpose. Here, the sunflower is bending, it is not associated for the growth. Whereas here in this case, the root is growing, the stem is growing, this is actually associated with the growth, right? And here also, the insect stimulus, that is the touch of the insect, make the venous flytrap to close. This is also not because of the growth. It is just a response for that particular situation. So therefore, though the plants are showing a movement for many stimulus, but these movements can be categorized based whether for a growth purpose or not for a growth related purpose. Okay. So that is what we are studying here. Response in the plants are of two types. One is related to growth, another one not related to growth. So this movement which is related to growth, no, we call it as a trophic response. It is very important for your board point of view. Whereas the movement which is not related to growth, no, we call it as a nastic response. Okay. So now let us focus on to this trophic response. So trophic movement in plants, majorly we are going to study 5 trophic movements. So here the trophic movements are always directional. Trophic movements for a particular thing, the plants are showing the movement. For example, the root is growing, that is towards the soil. The stem is growing towards the sunlight. Okay, so towards a particular direction they are showing a movement. Okay, so that's why we can say they are a directional movement. Look at here. So it occurs in a particular direction. If I say the root is growing, means it should grow below the ground only. If I say the stem is growing, which is grow above the ground itself. Okay, so it is having a particular direction and it is irreversible. If root once grows, no, we cannot get it back into a normal condition like a seed form. So once the seed gets germinate, once the root form, once the stem form, that is a permanent stage, correct? So that's why we can say it is irreversible. Whereas in the case of touch-me-not plant, it is not going to happen like that. If you touch the leaves of the plant, of course they are going to fold, but after some time, again they are going to get open. Correct. So that is reversible. But here these things are irreversible. And almost it is found in all plants. If I take any seed, of course they are going to germinate, though the germination process or the time may get varies. But if I see the seed is germinating, of course it is germinating. If I say the plant is having a root, of course it is having a root. The plant is showing the leaf stem, of course it is there. That means such a response almost found in all plants. And of course it is very slow. We can't expect a seed to get germinate and to become a big tree within a night. Correct? So it is not going to happen in an overnight. It is a slow process. Okay, so these are certain general things we need to understand in trophic movements. Now, just now I told you there are 5 trophic movements are there. What are those? Let us understand. So the first trophic movement is phototrophic movement. So here the name itself is telling. Photo means what? Photo means light. Okay. Trophic. So they are depending on the light. So therefore we call such movement as light dependent movement. Okay. So here the movement of the plant in response to light. Okay. I will explain with an example here. Imagine here is a plant. Let me take a potted plant. Now you do one thing. You just close this plant, or you just keep this plant in a room and just make a hole here, so that this hole is indicating through this the sunlight is coming. Okay, you just make this hole for the proper entry of sunlight. So imagine here is the sun, or the sunlight is coming through this hole. So now what happened? So in your lower classes itself, we have understood this experiment. So the plant, of course, they are going to show bend and they start growing towards the sunlight. Correct? So even at your home also, if you keep any plant, so of course they are going to show some bending towards the sunlight. So it means they love the sunlight. Correct? So that phenomena we call it as a phototrophism. So here the plant is moving towards the sunlight. That is a light dependent movement. Okay. So here in a trophism, we are going to see two words again. Whatever the trophism it is, either it is for a soil or is for a sunlight. Okay. But two types of movement we are going to see. Look at here. The roots, of course, they are also showing the movement, but they are not growing towards the sun. Correct. So that's why we can say here in the case of plant, particularly the stem is positively phototrophic. Why positively? Because they are bending towards the sunlight, that's why. Okay. So the stem is whereas the root is also growing, but this root is not showing positively phototrophic. It is negatively phototrophic. It is against the sunlight growing. Correct? So we can say it is negatively phototrophic. Understood? So this much is enough related to phototrophic movement. Okay. So the second category of trophic movement is geotrophic. So geo means gravity. Here the growth of the plant in response to gravity. So again, let me take the same example. If I consider a seed, correct? So here the seed get germinate above the shoot system is developed. Correct? And below the root system is developed. So imagine this is a soil. This is the soil. Correct? So here the plant which is growing above the ground, this is due to sunlight. So it is obviously positively phototrophic. But if I talk about this stem, so this is the stem part. So this is the root part. So particularly if I refer to the gravity, do you consider the stem is growing towards gravity? No. We will say the root is growing towards gravity. Correct? That means the root is positively geotrophic, whereas the stem is negatively geotrophic. It is opposite to that of phototrophism. Correct? Shall I write here? So stem is negatively geotrophic and the root is positively geotrophic. Understood? Here it responds to gravity. Now the third trophic movement is hydrotrophic. So look at here. So in this plant, this is the root system. Suppose if it is a water, where the root is moving, the root is growing towards the water itself. That means they are getting attracted by water. Correct? So that's why we are going to say that it is a hydrotrophic. Hydro means what? Water. So growth of roots nearest to the source of water. Where the water source is there, they are going to move. This is called hydrotrophic movement. Of course, it is also movement. Correct? Then the fourth one is thigmotrophic movement. So even at your home, so this is one of the climber. So we call it as a climber. Even at your home also, if you have any money plant, so you might have seen the leaves of the money plant as well as their tendrils. So we call them as tendril. Okay. Okay, let me write tendril, not climber. This is tendril. Yes. So what I was telling, I was giving example of a money plant. So in money plant also, the tendrils of that money plant, so they are looking for any support. If you have any support like a pole or any your compound or even some rod piece or whatever it is. Okay. So they just grow by touching those objects. Correct? So that the touch part, what you are going to say, that we call it as a thigmo. Okay. So here, the growth of a plant in response to touch, we call it as a thigmotrophic movement. So when they just touch the pillar of your compound. So they feel that, okay, we need to grow upon itself. So they start growing. So if they touch any compound, so they came to know that yes, we need to grow here itself. So that's why these structure, they start showing the growth because of the touch stimulus. Okay. So such movement we call it as a thigmotrophic movement. Here the best example is tendrils of climbers. So any tendrils you can take. So this is the fourth. And the last fifth trophic movement is chemotrophic movement. So here chemo refers to chemical. So the movement of plant part, I'm not telling the whole plant, any plant part, if they are showing any movement, because of the chemical stimulus, we call it as a chemotrophic movement. So the best example is growth of pollen tube and stigma. I will tell you. Look at here. We know a typical flower structure, correct? So imagine this is the flower pedicel. So the stalk of the flower is known as pedicel. Okay. So this part is called thalamus. And of course, the plant will be having the petals. So imagine these are the colorful petals. Okay, these are the petals. And of course, they will be having sepals like this. And now they have two parts. So inside, this is the gynoecium, and these structures are androecium. Correct? Nothing but the stamens. Shall I write? So gynoecium individual part we call it as a pistil, and androecium individual part is called stamen. So this is a typical flower structure. Now if I just take out a stamen, it will be having two structure again. So this is filament and this would be the anther. Correct? So hope you know this. Within anther, the pollen grains are present. Correct? So I will write this as an anther and inside present pollen grain. And now if I just take out this pistil part also. So this is the ovary, this is the style, and this would be the stigma. Shall I mention? So know the structure, though it is not there in your class right now. But in your class 12th as well as in class 11th, you need to study about the structure of a flower. You must know this. Okay. Now during the time of sexual reproduction of a plant, the anthers are going to release the pollen grain. Correct? So these pollen grain and go and land on this stigma part. So imagine here the pollen grains are releasing. Okay. So let me take the pollen grain in different color. So imagine the pollen grains, they are releasing like this. And when they just sit on the stigma, certain chemicals are going to release from the stigma of the flower. And even certain chemicals are going to release from the pollen grain. They are going to make a conversation. Okay, I am your plant pollen grain only, or I am belong to you species only. Because see, imagine if the pollen grain of some mango plant comes and sit on hibiscus stigma, they are not going to interact. They are not going to interact in the sense, they says that stigma won't allow the pollen grain to germinate inside. Because it knows that it does not belong to mine category. So it will just reject it. Okay, so we say that both the pollen as well as the pistil are going to interact. So that interaction will be in the form of a chemicals. So that's why we say that when a suitable pollen grain, suppose if it is hibiscus pollen grain, and this pistil also belongs to hibiscus flower, then they're going to interact. Okay, you are also hibiscus, I am also hibiscus. Let us combine together. So such a conversation is done with the help of chemicals. So we call such movement as chemotrophic. Okay. So now when this pollen grain came to know that yes, I can germinate inside, then it starts releasing the pollen tube. Okay. So this is the pollen tube. So pollen tube is growing inside the stigma. Understood? So this is chemical movement. I mean the movement due to chemicals. Hope I am very clear about this. So let me read this part. So the growth of pollen tube and stigma, this is due to the response of the chemical stimulus. Okay. So these are the 5 major responses due to particular stimulus, but these responses are in a particular direction. They do not grow elsewhere wherever they want. So that's why we call them as a trophic movement, and they also related to growth. Okay. And the second category, what I said earlier itself, it do not related to growth. We call it as a nastic response. Okay. Look at here. Example, the touch-me-not plant. Even the foldings of Venus flytrap. Or even you can take the pitcher plant, they are going to close their lid. Correct. So even the bending movement of the sunflower. So all these things are showing the response, but not related to growth purpose. Again, they will come back to their original position. Correct. It is not in a particular direction. It's not a directional. It is directionless. Understood? So it is directionless movement. And they are temporary and reversible. So again, they come back to the normal position, means it is reversible. Why the touch-me-not plant is going to show the movement? Because imagine, okay, so here in the stomata, when the water enters, they become turgid. Or even if I take a cell, when the water is there in the cell, they become turgid like this. The plant leaves also open. But as soon as a person touch or any object touches the leaf, they are going to lose the water. So when the water comes out, they become flaccid. So that's why they are going to show the foldings or drooping of leaves. Again, when they gain water from the atmosphere, again they are going to become turgid. Okay, so that's why we say it is reversible. And they found only in few specialized plants. So we are not going to see such a situation in all plants. You just go and touch any leaves of any plant. Are they going to fold? No. So it is only occur in specialized plant. So even in insectivorous, we have given a name to that. Oh, you are insectivorous. Why? Because of the stimulus like insect, you are going to show the movement. That's why you are a specified plant, insectivorous plant. That's why we are saying it occurs only in few specialized plant. Sunflower, they could able to bend their stem wherever the sunlight, that means the rays of the sun comes. But such a scenario we are not going to see in other plants. If you have any tulsi plant near at your home, they are not going to show bend every time. Correct? So only in specialized plant, such movements we are going to see. Understood? So this is what about the movement part. Now, in the plant also, we are going to see, okay, so this is the image, drooping leaves of touch-me-not plant for a nastic movement. Now we are in another topic of the plant coordination itself, that is hormones of the plant. See, while doing animals itself, I thought to include the hormones in animals, but I'm just going according to your textbook itself. Because some students, they may get confused, oh, ma'am might have skipped the topic of plant part. So without watching the video completely, they will come to the conclusion that yes, ma'am has not done this, ma'am might have not know this. That's why I am just moving according to your syllabus itself, according to the topic which have been mentioned in your textbook itself. Okay. So at last they have mentioned the hormones in animals. But here in the plant case, they have shown even the response to stimulus. Okay. And even the plant hormones together. So response to stimulus part is very small. Just now we have finished it. And they have even given certain information regarding electrical impulses as well as the chemical impulses. So what they are trying to tell is, in case of human beings or in case of animals, these impulses will be transmitted through neuron. Just now we have studied, correct? But plants, even though they do not have any neurons, but still they are going to show such a movement. This is because they have that special category, special property of responding to particular chemicals, particular object or particular thing like a sunlight, water, all those things. So that is what they are trying to tell in your textbook. Now they are in the another topic called hormones in plants. It is very small topic, but don't neglect this topic. Why? Because in class 11th, once again, there is a particular chapter called plant growth and development. So in that chapter, you are going to study in detail about all the hormones, what I am telling here. Here in this chapter, they have just introduced the hormones name. They have just given 1 or 2 lines about the hormones. But in detail, you are going to study in class 11th. So that's why here I am not doing in detail about these hormones, because anyhow, you are going to study that. And I have done the video of that chapter also that you can see here. Okay. Yes. What are hormones? Of course, we know that hormones will be produced in human body as well as even in animals. But when we think about plants, we will get surprised that do plants even have hormones? Yes, Of course, even plants do have a hormones. So these hormones are nothing but a chemicals. Okay, biochemicals within the body. They are produced in the form of chemicals. We call them as biochemical. So they are going to translocate to different part. For example, if a hormone produced in a particular part, say for example in a shoot, they may run throughout the body of a plant. Wherever they want their action, there they are going to show a action. For example, if that hormone has to show any responses, or if they have to show any effect in the root part, they will show there. If a hormone have to show any particular effect on the leaf part, they will show there. So like that, they will produce within the plant body, but by translocating to different parts, they are going to show their effect. Okay, so that is what the definition of this hormone. These are the chemical substances produced naturally, because we are not going to produce in artificially. Of course, we are going to produce artificially, but we are going to study in class 11th. But here we are talking about natural hormones in plants and regulating one or more physiological process. If I ask the physiological process in humans or in animals, what are the lists that you are going to give? Yes, ma'am, digestion is a physiological process. Excretion is a physiological process. Correct? Circulation, respiration, these are all physiological process. Like that, when it comes to plants, the growth is a physiological process. Development of fruit is a physiological process. Germination of a seed is a physiological process. So all these are physiological process. These hormones helping these plants in showing these physiological process. Okay. If I list 5 hormones, here we can see. One is auxin, another one is gibberellin, third is cytokinin, the fourth one is abscisic acid and ethylene. Among 5, the first 3 hormones are considered as growth promoter because they are responsible for growth of a plant. Whether the root can grow, okay, root can grow or shoot can grow, or even the flowers, the seeds, the leaves, anything. If they are showing growth, okay, we call it as a growth promoter because of these hormones. But there are 2 hormones, that is abscisic acid and ethylene. We call them as growth inhibitor. Growth inhibitor in the sense they are not responsible for the growth, but indirectly they are helpful for the plants only, but they delay the growth. Why it is so? Why they are doing? Let us understand. So first let us talk about auxin. Here I have put the paragraph of your textbook only to make you understand. When growing plants detect light, I will make you understand. First let us read this para. When growing plants detect light, a hormone called auxin synthesized at the shoot tail. It means what? Look at here. Imagine this is a plant shoot, okay? And this is the sunlight. This is what they are telling. When growing plant detect the light. So when they detect the light, okay, light is falling. Then they synthesized a hormone called auxin at the shoot tip. So this is the shoot tip, right? So here hormones are producing. So they are given a name to this hormone as auxin. So it makes cells to grow longer. They have not mentioned auxin. Yes, they have mentioned here. Auxin, they make cells to grow longer. When light is coming from one side of the plant, auxin diffuses towards the shady side of the shoot. This concentration of auxin stimulates the cell to grow longer on the side of the shoot, which is away from the light. It means what? See, what they are trying to tell is when the light is falling on one direction. Okay. So here the auxin which is so formed here, no, at the tip. So this is the shoot tip. So in the shoot tip, this auxin hormone has been formed. Now they are diffusing into the opposite direction. So light is coming in this direction, but auxin is moving into the opposite direction. That is in the shady area and making the cells in this area to grow. It means, look at here. See, now let's assume the auxins came in this opposite direction. Here the auxins came. They make the cells in this region. Earlier the cells were like this. Cells were like this. Now because of the auxin, now the cells are elongating like this. Cells become elongated. But here in the opposite side, the cells will be as usual in a normal size itself. Now what happened? If the opposite side, due to axin, if the cells become elongated, obviously it makes the plant to get bent, right? So because of that reason only, the plant will show bending like this. Because in all these areas, the cells started elongating due to axins. Here it will be remain as it is. So that's why we say the plants are going to show the bending movement towards the sunlight. This is one of the reasons for phototrophism. Understood? So this is what they are trying to tell. Let me read it again. When growing plant detected light, a hormone called auxin synthesized at the shoot tip, correct? Helps the cells to grow longer. So it makes the cells to grow longer. When light is coming from one side of the plant, axin dilutes or diffuses towards the shady side of the shoot. So axin diffuses towards the shady side. This is the shady side. This concentration of the axin stimulates the cells to grow longer. Because of the auxin concentration, cells start growing longer on the side of the shoot, which is away from the light. That means away from the light means here actually light was coming. Here the light was coming. The axin is moving the cells to grow longer, which is away from the light. Correct? Thus the plant appears to bend towards the light. So that's why the plant is bending towards light. This is phototrophism. Here, because of axin only, sometimes what happens, the people are use this axin to initiate rooting in stem cutting. Sometimes the stem cutting will be done. Okay. Because of axin, they will diffuse, of course, through plant body and make the root to grow. And even they're responsible for parthenocarpic. All those things are very interesting. I'm not going to mess up your mind by telling all those things because it is not there in your class. It not even asked in your exam. But you will study in class 11th. Okay. So this much is enough for your class right now. Okay. So this hormone is over. Now the second hormone is gibberellin. So what is gibberellin? Imagine here is the shoot. So whenever we talk about a shoot, we know that shoot will be having nodes and internodes. Correct? So this is the shoot part. This is the nodal region. And between the node, this area we call it as internode. This part is called the node. So all these regions are node. Okay. Now, due to the presence of gibberellin, so when you treat any plant with the help of this gibberellin hormone, so automatically what happens? No, the stem get elongated. So node and internode region becomes elongated. So they are going to use it in sugarcane field. So if you add gibberellin to the sugarcane plant, due to elongation of the stem, per acre you can yield more than 20 tons of sugarcane per acre. So such a powerful hormone it is. And even that will be used to treat the elongation of the grape stalk. Okay. So the grapes normally having this much size. Because of the gibberellin treatment, it will increases the stalk so that we can get more and more grapes. So all these are nothing but economically benefit, no? So that's why the people are going to utilize this hormone. So it is used for stem elongation and even for seed germination. So if there is a seed, if you treat this seed with this gibberellin, it can germinate. Okay, so that is what the function of gibberellin. So of course it is responsible for growth, right? Therefore it is called growth promoter, both these hormones. And another one is cytokinin. So if you just look at this plant, any plant you take, of course it will be having branches and it will be having leaves. Correct? And here we are going to see the fruits, birds, and even the flowers, everything we are going to see. All these things we are going to notice in a plant because of a cell division. Correct? So when one cell divide to become two cells, then only we can able to see the growth. Even in our case also, when we were small, the cell division start taking place. Because of that only we started growing. So compared to the cells of small kid, compared to the cells of the older one, of course the number of cells will be increases. Why? Because the cell keep dividing and multiplying. Because of that thing only we are growing. So even in case of plant also, cell division must occur. Okay. So that cell division will be active where? In growing region. So if you have a small leaf, it has to grow, there the cell division occur. If you have a small flower bud, the flower has to grow, there you are going to expect the cell division. There is a small fruit, it has to grow, there the cell division occur. Wherever the cell division occur, so in that area we are going to see this hormone called cytokinin. Okay, so it promotes cell division. Higher concentration we are going to see in fruits, seeds, and even in the young leaves, bud, and root, tip, and even in shoot growing part. So all these areas are responsible to show growth. So that's why here we are going to see cytokinin. Clear? So these are the three main hormones responsible for the growth. They are called growth promoter. Now the last two are growth inhibitor. Why? We call it as a growth inhibitor. Look at this hormone called abscisic acid. So imagine he is abscisic acid. We call him as a stress hormone. Actually, it's very good. Why is very good? Because he senses the environment. Imagine here is a seed. So you have put proper water to this seed. So you have facilitated everything, a proper manure, everything. But still, this seed is unable to germinate. It is telling that I want to germinate. I am not showing germination. Why? Because this abscisic acid is going to instruct. He is abscisic acid, no? ABA. It is also called ABA. He is going to give instruction to this seed that don't germinate. If you germinate, I won't tolerate. So he is going to give instruction by accumulating inside the seed. Okay? Why he is doing this? This is because he can sense the environment. Suppose if the upcoming season is winter, then he can analyze that, okay, so the next season is winter season. Suppose if I make this seed to get germinate, of course he is going to get die due to more chillness. So that's why he says that just wait for a moment or wait for a few days. When the situation become normal, when the environment become normal, then I will come out of you. Come out of you in the sense, my concentration will become less, then you can germinate. Okay, so that's why it will try to avoid the stress. That's why it is called stress hormone. And even imagine if there is a plant. And if I just take out one leaf, on the surface of the leaf, of course, we are going to see the stomata. Correct? So what is the function of stomata? It will do two functions. One is exchange of gases, oxygen as well as the carbon dioxide. And the second function is, it is responsible for water evaporation. That is nothing but transpiration. Suppose, if there is high sunlight, if there is very dry environment, so by that time, if the stomata gets open like this, the water start getting evaporate and the plants become wilt. Correct? So that's why this abscisic acid go and accumulate in this area. It says stomata just close, get close. So when you get close, so the stomata get closed like this. So because of the closure of stomata, the water do not escape. So the plant remain fresh only. Okay. But when situation become normal, again their concentration get lessened. Understood? And even it responsible to cause wilting of leaf. Imagine here is the leaf. So now this leaf has become older. So now we do not have any property, do not have any power of synthesizing the food, nothing. Okay. So by that time, why it has to simply stay in the plant? Because there is a shortage of space for the new growth, that is for the growth of new leaf. So that's why, because of that reason, this abscisic acid come and accumulate here in the tip of this leaf. Tip in the sense, in the particular leaf part that is at the base. So that when it accumulate here, we call it as abscission. So that the leaf, without any option, it has to get fall down. Okay. So immediately the leaf will get fall down. This leaf get fall down, so that this space will be provided for the growth of new leaf. That means, though it is responsible for avoiding the growth, but indirectly it is beneficial to the plant. Correct? So that's why we are going to say you are a stress hormone, but you are a growth inhibitor. Why? You are not allowing these plants to show growth. Okay? Indirectly you are helping for a circumstances, for a situation, but you are preventing growth. That's why you are a growth inhibitor. Clear? And the last hormone is ethylene. Ethylene is considered as a gaseous hormone. I will give you a best example. Your mom, when she brought some banana, unripened banana, okay, or any fruits, unripened fruit, she is going to cover in a paper, newspaper, or even in a plastic, anything. Or even at a shop also, you might have seen that they will be kept closed by covering with a newspaper or some bag. Why? This is because they want these fruits to get ripen fast. Okay. Suppose if you just keep one banana, ripened banana, along with unripened banana, then what happens? So these are the unripened banana. Let's imagine. Now you have kept the ripened banana also. You have covered everything with this cover. From this ripened banana, a kind of gas release. So that's why whenever a fruits get ripened, we are going to sense the smell of ripening. Especially the mango. We can guess, oh, here is a mango. Why? Because we could able to sense the smell of that mango because that gas is releasing from the ripened fruit. So here also from this banana or any ripened fruit, a kind of gas which is so released, no, that gas itself we call it as ethylene gas. Okay. So this gas in turn make other fruits to get ripened faster. Because of that, they will also get ripened faster. Ma'am, if I won't keep this ripened banana, if I keep all unripened as it is, then how come it is released? It will be released naturally in their body, but it takes time. Suppose if you keep a ripened fruit along with this unripened, the process will be progress very fast. Or else it will occur within their body, but it is a bit delay. Okay, it's a bit slow process compared to this category, this situation. So it causes ripening of the fruit and cause aging. Why we are saying it is aging? Because as they start getting older, that process is nothing but aging only. So here when it is in an unripened state, we say that it is still young. When it get ripened, it has become old. And after that, of course, it has to get fall down from the plant part. Okay. So that's why we say that it is responsible for aging process. So it is not helping for growth. It is delaying it. Therefore, it also comes under growth inhibitor. So this aging process is also called as senescence. Clear? So this much information is enough for your class. Okay. Now let's move on to the most important part and the last part of this chapter, that is hormones in animals. In animals. So just like in plants, how they are responsible for growth of the plant, even in case of animal, especially their role, hormones role are very, very important in animals. Because not only nervous system is responsible for coordination. In the beginning of the lesson itself, we have understood our entire body showing coordination by two systems. One is by nervous system that we have understood. And the second part is endocrine system. So this is another system which is important to control and coordinate our body in so many situations. Okay. So here, whenever we are talking about endocrine, endocrine refers to a single cell or it could be a group of cells. Okay. For example, imagine there is a single cell. If this single cell stores certain hormone, these hormones are nothing but the chemicals. So they are hormones only. So if they release these hormones, then this single cell, it could be a endocrine cell. Okay. And sometimes what happens, the group of cells will be there. Imagine the cells are in a group. Now these cells, they are secreting chemical, that is hormones only. They are releasing into this cavity. And from this cavity, they are adding into the bloodstream. Again, this group of cell, that is also nothing but endocrine only. Endocrine. It could be endocrine tissue, it could be endocrine gland, anything I can call. So that's why whenever I call a gland which acts as a endocrine, then it could be a single cell or it could be a group of cells. That should be clear in your mind. Okay. Now here I am using a term called hormones. Now the question is, what are hormones? So here is a small definition, but actually it is not given in your textbook, but you have to note down it. Because as I told you, as you enter into class 11th, there is a special chapter, there is a separate chapter about this endocrine system as chemical coordination and integration. So there you are going to study in detail about all the hormones which are so produced in human body and how they are going to regulate the different process of the body. So that chapter also have done. You can see the video here. So here this is like a basic. So when you understand these things, then there you can understand everything. Okay. Yes. So what is the definition for hormones? Hormones are non-nutrient chemicals. Okay. They are actually non-nutrient, but they are body chemicals only. But they are produced in trace amount. Trace amount means in a very small amount they are going to produce inside the body and acts as an intercellular messenger. What is the meaning of intercellular messenger? Imagine this is one cell. And now this cell, it has to give some signal to another cell which lies here. Okay. So how they are going to communicate? Then it can be done with the help of this hormone also. Suppose if this cell, if it is an endocrine cell, and if it has to send any signal, then it is going to release in the form of hormones. Then these hormones go towards another cell to which it has to communicate, and there it go and bind to a particular receptor. Already we have understood what is receptor means. There it brings, there it go and binds and bring a suitable change in this cell. Understood? That's why we are going to say they act as a intercellular messenger. So they are actually carrying the message. Got it? And here we need to understand the main difference between hormones and neurotransmitter. Because in the nervous system also we have understood nervous system are going to release the chemicals. They are also responsible to bring suitable change whenever we are in a panic situation. I took the example of a cockroach. So how that cockroach stimulus is going to send to the brain and a suitable action or a suitable command once again given from the brain itself, how it is done with the help of a nervous system. Like that, even these hormones, that is chemicals, are going to bring a suitable change in the body. Then what is the difference? If it is like, that means if all these function, if it is going to be done by neurotransmitter, that is by nervous system only, then what is the purpose of having hormones in our body or endocrine system in our body? That is what the big question. If there is any panic situation or for a particular stimulus, for everything, if our nervous system is going to bring a suitable changes or suitable response, then why we need to have this chemical? Correct? Why we need to have this hormone in our body? That is what the big question mark. So for that, here is the answer. So first let me explain that part, then I will read this. Okay. So first let me talk about the neurotransmitter. Whenever I talk about nervous system, we know the part as well as the labeling of the nervous system, that is neuron. Correct? So how this neuron look? It will be having a cell body. It will be having dendrites like this. Then axon. This is the nerve ending. Correct? So here is the nucleus. Suppose if this neuron has to send any chemical, that is particular signal, that will be stored in the form of this neurotransmitter. So those chemicals are going to release into the synapse. Right? So this region is synapse. So those chemicals again going to sit on the another neuron dendrites. Again they are going to bring a suitable change. Again that impulse will be transmitted to another neuron. So like that it will be keep transmitting. Imagine if this neurotransmitter, if it has to send its signal to the heart. Okay. So let's assume here is our heart. Here is the heart. Now the neuron is sending the signal so that the heart has to beat fast, because now she is in a panic situation. Some mad dog is chasing. She is in a very panic situation. So heart has to beat fast. It has to pump blood very faster so that her body should get sufficient amount of energy. That done only because of the heart pumping only. Correct? So by that time what happened? These neurons, they are going to send signal in the form of these chemicals. Those chemicals are nothing but neurotransmitter. Okay, which is going to be released into the particular synapse, again catch by another neuron. Then it will be passed from neuron to neuron, neuron to neuron, till it reaches to a particular organ. Now imagine it has now reached to a particular organ like a heart, and these chemicals go and bind onto the receptor of the heart. Now heart thinks, okay, what is the message? What message you have brought? Okay, I need to beat fast. Okay, I will do it. It start beating fast. But this action is very short-lived. Okay, it is very short-lived. Suppose if I want to make this heart to beat fast for a long time, then I need the help of certain other chemicals other than the neurotransmitters. So those chemicals are nothing but the hormones. Okay, so here hormones, what happen? What they are going to do is, imagine here is a special cell. Here is a special cell. Let me consider this cell as an endocrine cell. Okay. Or it is one endocrine gland. I don't know, gland can be a single cell or it can be a group of tissue. Now this gland is going to release a chemical that is nothing but hormone, right? So imagine it is releasing these hormones. Now these hormone has to go towards the heart. So let me write heart here. Now heart is here, which is also having the receptor. But directly these hormones do not come and approach here like a neuron. It is not going to be present near the heart, or it is not going to present near the lungs if it has to bring particular change in that. So then how it is going to send the signal? That is through blood. Okay. So what it will do? Directly it will add these chemicals into the bloodstream. Imagine this is the bloodstream. So here is blood is moving. Now these chemicals add up into the blood. Understood? And through the blood, it will come here near the heart and bind to a suitable receptors of the heart. Okay? Now the same work. If it has to beat fast, then it made the heart to beat fast. But what is the difference? It can make its effect to be retained for a long period. Not like this. It is very short period. So that is why our body has to release certain hormones in order to make the effect to be long lasting. Understood? But another thing is, all these hormones will be added up into the blood only, directly into the blood. So that is what the main difference between hormones as well as the neurotransmitter. So that's why nature has built another system called endocrine system along with the nervous system to coordinate and control our body. So hope it is clear for you. Now let me read this definition. Hormones are the chemicals released into the blood. Whereas neurotransmitter, it is related to nervous system. So those chemicals released into synapse, or sometimes it will be directly passed from neuron to neuron. Okay. And here its effect remains for a long time. And here its effect is for a short period. So that's why we need endocrine system. That's why we need hormones. Okay. And now, so hope this part is also clear. Hope you are making everything in your copy. You are making note of all those things. It's very important. Don't neglect anything. And here, I am using this endocrine. I am using this term so strongly, right? Is there any other word for this endocrine? Or is there any particular meaning for this system called endocrine system? So let me tell that also. In our body, whenever we talk about a gland, the two types of gland we are going to see. One is the exocrine gland, another one is endocrine gland. So if you don't understand the difference between exocrine gland and endocrine gland, again it starts troubling you. So that's why first let us understand the basic. When you have a grip on the basics, no, just like a foundation, then you can construct any big building. Then you will become master in biology. So that's why I am here. Don't worry. So what is exocrine gland? What is endocrine gland? So here our main focus is on endocrine gland. Why? Because the endocrine glands are going to release the hormone. Here our focus is only on the hormone. But if you don't understand the difference, then again it becomes a confusion. That's why I am telling the difference. So what is exocrine gland? So imagine I have a salivary gland. You know salivary gland. Already we have understood in life process chapter, correct? So it is going to be present in our buccal cavity. It releases its secretion, that is saliva, into the mouth, correct? So that is exocrine gland. Why I will consider it as exocrine gland? Because look at here. Suppose if you consider this as a salivary gland, inside it will be having so many cells like this. And in this cell, the saliva is going to secrete. Now, whenever our body demands, then the saliva is going to release here into this cavity. And how it is going to move into the buccal cavity? That is through a pipe-like structure. Look at here. There is a road for this movement. See, through this road, this saliva is moving. Now it is reaching onto the surface. So I can say this is an example of exocrine gland. Let me write here. Why exocrine gland? Because here I told there is a road for this movement of secretion. So this road, I can say duct. Duct is nothing but like a channel. So through this duct, the secretions are going to pass and release onto the surface. So that's why these are the gland with the duct system. Okay, gland with the duct system. So instead of taking salivary gland, here I told example salivary gland. Suppose instead of calling it as a salivary gland, if I consider it as a sweat gland, then these molecules you can consider it as a sweat. Now here also the sweat is going to release, it will be passed through a particular duct and release onto the surface that is on the skin. So sweat is going to collect. So for every secretion, for their movement, there is a particular road. So that's why we are going to say the gland with the duct system. So all these comes under the exocrine gland. Okay, salivary gland, sweat gland, and even our pancreas also. I will talk about this also, pancreas, at the end of this chapter, means in a particular part where we are going to talk about a hormone called insulin. So there I am going to tell. But whenever any secretion is passing through a duct, we call it as a exocrine gland. Whereas endocrine gland is not like that. Endocrine gland says, I don't have any duct system, ma'am. Directly I am going to release into the blood. So wherever you want, you can take it. Okay. For example, look at here. Imagine here I have a thyroid gland. So everybody heard this name, thyroid gland. Okay. So even though you don't know exactly what is this thyroid gland, but you know, you heard the name, right? So let me consider this as a thyroid gland. Now in this thyroid gland, there are so many cells are there like this, group of cells. So these cells acts like an endocrine gland. So now imagine the blood is coming. Here the blood vessel is coming. We know blood vessel artery is very thick. Material cannot diffuse. Therefore, it is going to branch like capillary. So that also we have learned in life process chapter itself. Okay. So now here what happened? The blood, which is so carrying glucose, oxygen, everything, it has to be diffused into the cells, right? That is through capillary. So now it is giving everything to the cell. But these cells, they say we are going to release certain chemicals. That is nothing but hormones. So now, imagine the hormones are released here. These hormones, when it enter into interstitial fluid, that is in tissue fluid, directly add up into this blood. Correct? So now the capillary become vein. So that also we know it. So when they become vein like this, in the vein, these hormones are moving. So directly where this vein is going to get joined, of course you are right, is going to get joined into the heart. So it join into the heart, and into the heart they are going to release these chemicals. So whenever the heart pump the blood, it will be taken to respective places. So through aorta, it will be branches into arteries. You know it now. So aorta branches into arteries like this. So imagine if this hormone has to go towards the kidney. Or let me say, for example, to the stomach. It has to give signal to the stomach. Then the blood which is so taking this. So blood carry this hormone and give it to the stomach, where the suitable receptors will be present in the stomach and bring suitable change in the stomach. Change in them is particular action. Okay. So that's why we can say here no duct system. Directly the material will be added up into the blood, and blood while circulating throughout the body, wherever it is required, it go and dump there. Just like how you are going to put your postcard into a post box. Then the postman will take all your letters. Wherever he want to give, he will go to the destination place. He will just give that letter. Correct? So like that here also. Understood? So this is what the major difference between exocrine and endocrine gland. Shall I write here? Endocrine glands are the gland without duct. So hope these two differences, that means exocrine and endocrine, you have understood very clearly. Now let us move on to the actual part of this hormone. Yes, in our textbook they have mentioned different endocrine glands as well as their location also in the body. Though we are not supposed to study in detail about all these glands, only few hormones we need to study, but still the location of different endocrine glands in the body is very important. Okay, I will write here. It is there even in your textbook also. But if I just draw the diagram now, it will just imprint in your mind. That's why. Okay, just look at here carefully. Very simple, very easy. So we know that this is human body, right? So here is the brain. So in the brain itself, we know the position of thalamus. So here is the thalamus. Thalamus itself is also endocrine gland. Okay, and below this thalamus, there is a gland like this. So this gland, we call it as a pituitary gland. So like that, here also at the back side, there is one more gland. This gland is called pineal gland. So here in the brain part itself, we have seen three structures regarding endocrine gland. What are those? One is pituitary gland. This is hypothalamus. Sorry students, this is not pituitary gland, this is pineal gland. This one is pituitary gland. It is a small pea-sized gland. And this one, what you are seeing now, this is actually pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is a master gland. It is going to control so many other glands also. Okay. Now, you came down. Here in this region, there is one more butterfly-shaped gland is located. This is nothing but thyroid gland. It is located near in the neck part. Okay. So, this is called thyroid gland. Now, you just turn the thyroid gland, that is in the other surface of the thyroid gland. There are 4 lobe-like structure present. Like this. This is nothing but parathyroid gland. Right? And now, after this, okay, look at here. So here is the heart. So near the heart itself, there is one more gland is present near to the heart, but not exactly on the surface of the heart. So this gland is called thymus gland. Okay. And now here, you know the position of the pancreas, right? So here is the pancreas. So this pancreas actually exocrine gland. But within pancreas, there are certain cells present. Those cells are going to secrete hormone. Understood? So those cells are a part of endocrine gland. So therefore, pancreas itself is also a endocrine gland. Right? And now we will came down. Here is the kidney. On the surface of the kidney, there is a pyramid-like structure present like this. So these are nothing but adrenal gland. So till now, what are all the glands that I have mentioned here? Their location, that is fixed for everybody. Whether it is a male or a female, in both the sexes, we are going to see the presence of all these glands. Hypothalamus, pituitary, thymus, pineal, that is a pineal gland, pancreas, adrenal gland, everything. Now, suppose if we are talking about a male, that is in a man, then pair of testes will be there. So, pair of testes will be there. So, testes are also nothing but act as a endocrine gland because they are also going to secrete certain hormone. Suppose if it is a female body, imagine if I am talking about a female. If I am talking about a female, then we all know that uterus, that is nothing but female reproductive system, as well as the ovary is also part of female reproductive system. Suppose if I draw, it is the reproductive system of a female. Here 2 structures there. These are nothing but ovaries. So ovaries are also nothing but endocrine gland only. Understood? So these are different endocrine glands present in our body. Clear? So hope this part is also very clear for you. Look at this image. Okay. So if you have your textbook, if you open your textbook, so they have mentioned about the location of these glands. So the same location I have mentioned here also. So now if you read your textbook, you can understand. Now let us talk about one by one. But here all gland explanation is not mentioned. Only few gland as well as the hormone. For example, look at here. In our textbook, they are talking about pituitary gland only. Pituitary gland is going to release so many hormones, but here mainly they are talking about only one hormone called growth hormone. So this growth hormone is going to be controlled. That means pituitary gland is controlled by hypothalamus. Therefore, we'll talk about this also. Pineal gland information is not given, but in class 11th you are going to study. So therefore, let us not talk about here. And thyroid gland information is given. So we need to study about this thyroid gland. And after that, thymus gland information is not given. So let us not worry. Adrenal gland, yes, they have given. Adrenal gland is going to secrete so many hormones, but only one hormone function they have mentioned. So let us learn about that. And even pancreas, one hormone function they are given. And the testis and ovary, general function they have mentioned. But in class 11, you are going to study about all these organs, glands and their hormones in detail. Okay, so let us enter inside this pituitary as well as the hypothalamus. Yes. Before reading this, let me explain this part. So I draw this is hypothalamus, right? And this hypothalamus, below this only the pituitary gland is located like this, I told. If I enlarge this part, I can show something like this. This is our pituitary. And this pituitary is having a stalk-like structure like this. And to this structure, the two lobes of pituitary is going to attach. This is hypothalamus. So hypothalamus is very, very strong and is very dominant. So he is going to control our pituitary. Pituitary is a master gland, but still that master gland is under the control of whom? Hypothalamus. Now imagine a baby has took birth. Now it has to grow, his body has to develop. So for that, his body required growth hormone. So until it has reaches the age of puberty or almost all 12, 20 years, okay, not 12, 20 years, up to 20, 21 years in the case of male or 18, 19 years in the female. So till a person reaches to that age, the growth hormone has to be released. So who is going to release? It is not by hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is just going to give order, that's it. So that order should be received by this pituitary. Okay, so pituitary, this is pituitary I said. So this pituitary gland is having two lobes. So this lobe, what you are saying, this major one is called anterior pituitary or anterior lobe of pituitary. And this small one is called posterior lobe. So both anterior and posterior lobes are going to release lot of hormone, but anterior lobes are going to release plenty compared to this posterior lobe. Posterior lobe release only two hormones. Now, we are talking about only growth, right? Now this guy is very small like this. If he has to grow bigger, that is from his childhood itself, this growth hormone has to release. So now that instruction given from hypothalamus to the pituitary directly, you pituitary go and release the hormone. Then pituitary start releasing this hormone and add up into the bloodstream. Okay, imagine these are the hormone released. Now they entered into the bloodstream. So wherever they have to reach, they reach. That is into the cells, into the organs, into the different parts of the body. It reaches and brings suitable changes. So that's why the person is going to show the growth. Okay, he was like this, now he became tall. Understood? So that's why we say pituitary gland growth hormone is very important for growth of our body, growth of our organ. Understood? Suppose if the growth hormone release excess in the childhood itself, then what happened? The person becomes so tall then compared to normal height. So Indian height is average from 4.5 to 6 within that. Suppose if this growth hormone released in an enormous quantity, then what happened? The person becomes so tall. That condition we call it as a gigantism. Look at here. So he has become so tall. So like that, in the childhood, if the growth hormone secretion into the blood is not that much enough, if it is very less secretion occur, then also it is a problem. That leads to another condition called dwarfism. So that image also you can see, this person is very, very dwarf. Got it? One is gigantism, another one is dwarfism. But here I have just put only gigantism, but this is dwarfism. Okay, so that's why we should say thanks to our growth hormone. See, Pituitary gland is going to release growth hormone. It regulates growth and development of the body. Deficiency, that is nothing but lower secretion, leads to dwarfism. Over secretion leads to gigantism. So one hormone function is over. Now, what is another hormone? This hormone we have done. So we need to talk about thyroid gland. Let us talk about that. So we all know, if our body has to function normally, means whatever the food that we are going to take, that is carbohydrate rich food, protein, fat, everything has to get breakdown properly. That we call it as a metabolism. So who is going to do? Yes, enzymes are going to do. So in digestion chapter itself we have understood enzymes are very important for breakdown of this carbohydrate, protein, fat, everything. But who has to give instruction to these enzymes? Oh, this is the right time you have to break it. Somebody should be there to give. That is done by this thyroid gland. They are very, very important for metabolism of these components. When metabolism occurs properly, then once again our body will function normally. Correct? So at the same time, in a female case, menstrual cycle. So it has to be done regularly, periodically. That also controlled by thyroid gland. And in our body, RBC production has to occur. That also controlled by thyroid gland. So thyroid gland is very, very important. But this thyroid gland, which is so going to produce a hormone called thyroxine, is not directly produced. We need to feed it in the form of iodine. So where is iodine is present? You might have heard. You just use this salt. This salt is iodized salt. Okay. That means in the food, the iodine will be present. That iodine is important for process of making this thyroxine hormone. Okay. So first let me draw thyroid gland here. If he is a person, so let me consider this is the neck of this guy. Here a butterfly shape gland is there. This is called thyroid gland. If I enlarge this, how it looks? Something like this. Okay. So here this black color region, what you are saying, this area we call it as a stroma. And within the stroma, there are so many ball-like cells are there. Imagine you are playing some cricket with the help of that cricket ball. So cricket ball, it looks spherical, right? But inside that ball, the cavity will be there. So like that here also, the cells are present like this in a group. But inside this cavity will be there. Okay, so these are cells. We call it as follicular cells. It is thyroid follicles. Or let me mention, these are just cells. Now these cells are responsible for production of this thyroid hormone, because this whole gland is thyroid gland. In that gland, the cells are responsible for thyroxine hormone production. How it is going to produce? With the help of iodine. Imagine the food you have going to eat, that is either in the form of a salt or either in the form of a food, whatever. If iodine is there, that will be absorbed into the blood. Correct? So let me draw a blood vessel here. Imagine the blood vessel which is having the blood. Inside this blood, iodine is there. Okay. So here is the iodine. So that iodine will be absorbed by the cells of this thyroid gland. By utilizing that iodine, they are going to prepare this hormone. Okay. Let me enlarge this cell as well as the iodine. See, look at here. Iodine is there in the blood. Now cells are going to take this iodine inside them. Then with the help of this iodine, they are going to prepare the hormone. So these are the hormones. These hormones, we call it as thyroxine hormone. So I told you in the beginning itself, these hormone will be added into the blood itself. Imagine they will go and join into the blood, and wherever it want to go, it will bring a suitable change. Okay. Suppose if you won't eat proper iodine rich food, then what happen? Thyroxine hormone production will become less. Then that make a condition called goiter. So you might have seen the neck region become enlarged like this. So hope this part is clear. You are making this part also in your note, that is in your copy. Let me move on to the next slide. Look at this. So in this woman, you can see the neck portion has been bulged. That is the swollen part. So this swollen condition itself, we call it as what? Goiter. The people, especially who are going to live in coastal areas, no, they are not going to suffer from this condition. Why? Because in the soil itself, the iodine will be there. So of course, that soil, which is so responsible for growth of the plant, of course, make plants to get absorb the iodine. So therefore, in all the food, the other particles, everything, everywhere, the iodine will be there. So if they are going to consume such food, they won't get such a condition. That is goiter. Understood? So this is what the main thing. And here, if you want to list the function of this thyroxine hormone, we can say like this. It regulates carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism. And not only for that, even for our physical growth, mental growth, sexual growth, for everything, thyroid gland is very, very important. Thyroxine hormone is very important. Look at here. Important for physical, mental and sexual growth, and even helps in RBC production. So two glands and two hormones functions we have understood. Correct? See, this one over, thyroid gland function over, pituitary gland function over. So now we need to talk about this pancreas. Yes, pancreas regulate blood glucose level. So I told in the beginning part of this hormone itself, pancreas can even function as an exocrine gland. How it is? Look at here. If it is just a rough sketch of pancreas, it's like a leaf-like structure, right? So here certain cells which looks in this way. See, this part what I have drawn, no, this is the exocrine part. Because here the enzymes are going to secrete. These enzymes are going to release from these cells into the duct system. Look at here, there is a proper road. Proper road, right? So in this road, the hormones are, sorry, not hormones, enzymes are moving. So where the enzymes are going to dump? Yes, it is going to dump into which part? In the digestive system. This is the duodenum part. So in the duodenum part, they are going to dump all the enzymes. So whenever, if any secretion is moving through a proper road, that is duct, we call it as an exocrine, right? But here, we are not talking about exocrine gland. Our intention is to learn endocrine gland, right? So where is endocrine gland, ma'am? Here it is. Look at this. Look at here. Here is a group of cells. The cells are present like this in a group, like an island. In fact, this cell's name is islet of Langerhans. Why Langerhans? Because the Langerhans is a scientist who observed this gland in the pancreas. That's why. So this is actually endocrine gland. Whereas this part is exocrine. Ma'am, suppose in our exam, if the question comes, pancreas, option A, exocrine gland, option B, endocrine gland. So which option we need to choose? Both option. So that's why pancreas is considered as mixed gland or mixocrine gland, because it acts like both exocrine and endocrine. Okay. Now in this islet of Langerhans, two hormones are going to synthesize, but here mainly we are talking about one hormone called insulin. Insulin. Imagine E is the insulin. So what is his function? He says, I am going to regulate glucose level in your blood. Okay. So let me show that. A regulate of blood glucose level. So imagine this person is eating the food. In the food, carbohydrate is there. He may eat the sweet, he may eat carbohydrate food. Of course, even carbohydrate, when it gets broken down, converted into glucose only. So where this glucose is going to get added? Of course, into the blood. Okay. So imagine this is the blood vessel. Ma'am, this is esophagus, right? Simply I am drawing. Directly I need to show it. There is the blood vessel. That's why I have drawn the blood vessel only. Okay. And let me draw blood vessel here. Now after breakdown of this molecule of carbohydrate, it will get converted into glucose. So the glucose will be added up into the blood. Correct? Now insulin will come. So is the insulin. So insulin got shocked. Oh my God, this much glucose is there in the blood. This is not good. So let me make this glucose to enter into the cell, because cell is starving. We need to provide energy to the cell. So that's why it goes towards the cell. Imagine he is the cell. So this cell is very upset without energy. So that's why this insulin, let me consider him as an insulin. There will be a particular receptor on the cell. So insulin goes and bind here. Okay, on the suitable receptor. So when insulin binds, it creates a gate. A channel will be created. Through this channel, the glucose molecule will enter into the cell. Now glucose started entering. Now the cell become happy. Okay, anyhow I got glucose. I become energetic now. Cell become energetic. But now cell says, my stomach is full. I am completely satisfied with the glucose. Now I do not want enough glucose. Then still you are eating a lot. Then where this glucose has to go? Then it will enter into another cell called fat cell. So he is a fat cell. So he says, you can store lot of glucose, no problem. I can store it. So the glucose will be stored here. The fat cell will be keep bulging. So that's why when you have more and more sweets, more and more carbohydrate rich food, then we start become fat. So that will be collected here in the arms, in the stomach, in the thighs, everywhere. Okay. Suppose, imagine if there is no insulin, then what happened? What happened? Here, the glucose will not enter into the cell. The glucose will not enter even into the fat cell. So without entering into these cells, it will be keep increasing within the blood only. Correct? So when they start shifting into these cells, automatically in the blood, the glucose level will be decreases. But here, without insulin, the glucose level in the blood keep increasing. Correct? So that condition is called diabetes mellitus. What is diabetes mellitus? Glucose level in the blood increases. So that's why what the doctors will do? Oh, your body is not producing enough insulin. So that's why we will inject this insulin in the form of an injection, or we are going to give in the form of a tablets at any cost. What insulin was doing in your body, that is, it was reducing glucose level in the blood. So that work is done by artificially prepared insulin. Okay, so that's why diabetes mellitus patient are going to take insulin injection or the tablets. Understood? So this is what the main function. Hope I am very clear. It regulates blood glucose level. Now let's move on to another hormone. Which one? Adrenal gland or adrenaline. So this hormone is called emergency hormone or flight or fight hormone. So exactly where this hormone is going to produce? You have seen the kidney, right? Pair of kidney we have. On this kidney, there is a pyramid-like structure is there. This is nothing but adrenal gland. So this gland is going to produce lot of hormone. In that hormone, one such hormone is adrenaline. So this adrenaline is called emergency hormone. Why emergency hormone? In all the situation it is not going to release. In a panic situation or in an emergency situation, then only it is going to release. Imagine you are visited a zoo. Okay, so you are just watching all the animals, you are taking the selfie, so you are so happy. Okay, so all of a sudden somebody is announcing in the zoo, oh, one tiger has got escaped from the cage. So as soon as possible, please enter into the exit gate or just move out from the zoo. It is very crucial situation or very critical condition. So then what you are going to do? Still in that condition, are you going to take the selfie? No. So you will run as fast as possible, right? So that is an emergency situation. So your body start producing this hormone called adrenaline. So in such situation, we have two options. What are those? One is fight. Either you need to fight with the tiger if it is come in front of you, correct? Or you need to flight. That means you need to get escape from the situation. That's why it is called fight or flight hormone. So in our life, we are going to face two such situations every time. Whenever there is an emergency comes, no, for example, exam comes, then again two situations, we need to fight. That means we need to face the examination, or we need to flight. So we need to just escape from the exam. Okay. So such a situation, we call it as emergency situation. During that situation, this hormone is going to release. So what this hormone will do? Let's see. So imagine This is adrenal gland, correct? So let me take the example of the tiger only. So now, emergency situation you are facing, the hormones are produced here in this adrenal gland. It has to enter into the blood vessel, correct? So now it has entered into this blood vessel. So blood of course will flow towards all the lung, that means all the organs of your body. Now in that situation, you have to run, correct? So you have to run means your muscle need energy, correct? So here is the muscle cell. Imagine these are the muscle cells. So muscle cells says, I need more and more glucose, correct? So now this hormone go and bind to the receptors of the muscle cells, and make these muscle cells to get more energy from the heart, okay? That means here is the heart. Here on the surface of the heart also, we have the receptors. Now emergency hormone, that is adrenaline, go towards the heart and bind to the receptors of the heart. So what the heart will do? Heart start pumping more and more blood, correct? So when it pumps more and more blood, automatically the glucose present in the blood will reach towards the cell. This is the muscle cell. And when the glucose entered, then it will become happy. Okay, I got energy, now I can run. But glucose is not enough. For glucose breakdown, we need what? Lungs. So that's why this emergency hormone, adrenaline, it will approach even the lungs also. So imagine these are the lungs. Again on the surface of the lungs, receptors are there. Emergency hormones goes and bind on the surface of the receptor. Okay. Now, it makes the lungs to breathe more and more oxygen. So that oxygen again add up into the blood. Again, through the blood circulation itself, oxygen will be enter. Now the cell will get even oxygen also. With the help of this glucose and oxygen, the cell is going to get ATP. Correct? So, when the muscle cell is going to demand oxygen and glucose, when this adrenaline goes and bind to the receptor of the muscle cell. When they are going to breathe faster, when adrenaline sits on this. When it is going to pump more and more blood, when adrenaline sits on this. So during this time, so here let me mention the function. So heart beat fast, heart beat faster, lungs also breathe faster, and even metabolism occur faster here. Occur more. So during such emergency situation, our skin do not require more oxygen, do not require more glucose, correct? So like that even our digestive system also. Imagine the tiger is chasing, so you are running. By the time, do you feel hungry? Definitely not, because the situation is panic, you need to save yourself from the tiger, so you are running like anything. So by that time, adrenaline goes and bind to the digestive system also. So imagine this is our digestive system. So on the surface of the digestive system, the receptor which are so there, on these receptor, the adrenaline goes and bind. It will slow down the metabolism here in the digestive system, because all this energy which are so going to be utilized here in the digestive process will be channelized here into the muscle cell. Because right now the emergency situation, in this emergency situation, muscle cell require energy, right? So that's why by making all this alternation in a particular situation, adrenaline will bring a suitable change in the body. So that's why we call it as what? Fight or flight hormone. It is preparing the body to fight for the situation or flight in the situation. That's why it is an emergency hormone. Hope I am very clear. Okay. Now if you read your textbook now, you will understand everything. Now the last hormone, that is testosterone and estrogen. See here, I won't tell much because anyhow you are going to study in detail in class 11th, but you just know little bit basic information. So we all know the testis is a main sex organ in male case. It is a primary sex organ. So like that in the case of female, ovary is the primary sex organ. So when a boy or a girl, when he or she reaches the age of puberty, puberty means almost all 12 to 13 years. So in that age, the body, not only physically and even mentally, it starts showing certain changes. How it is possible? This is because of the hormone. So here, the testes are going to release a hormone called testosterone. And estrogen is the hormone released from the ovary. What happens now from the testosterone? When you look at a boy, when he reaches the puberty age, his body, that is especially the physique, start showing the changes. His walls start getting changed, as well as the mustache started appearing, the beard formation start taking place, and his muscles start growing, his bones start enlarging. So he becomes so strong, that is muscular strength, even in bones also becomes so stronger. How these things are happen? This is because of the testosterone hormone. So such a change is what you are going to see, in a puberty age. We call it as secondary sexual character. It's not only in male case, even in female also. That is in girls. When she reaches the age of puberty, her body also starts showing the changes. That is breast development, menstrual cycle, and even certain hairs, that means pubic hairs in the axial region, pubic region. So all these changes, boy or a girl started noticing in a puberty age. This is because of these hormones. So such a changes or such a characters, we call it as what? Secondary sexual character. Okay, that's enough. Now here is a table which is given in your textbook itself. Let's read this. Growth hormone. Their gland has been mentioned, pituitary gland, stimulate growth in all organs. That we have understood. And the second is thyroid gland. So here the hormone name they have not mentioned, but you can write here, that is thyroxine. It regulates the metabolism for the body growth, metabolism of carbohydrate and fat. And the third hormone is insulin. Where it is going to produce? It is from the gland called pancreas. It regulates blood glucose level or blood sugar level. And the fourth one is testosterone, produced from the testes, responsible for secondary sexual character. Secondary sexual character means everything. Mustache, beard development, sexual organs growth, muscles growth, voice changes, everything. Then fifth one, ovaries, endocrine gland given, but they have not mentioned the hormone, that is estrogen. Development of female sex organ as well as menstrual cycle regulation. Then the sixth one is adrenaline, produced from the adrenal gland. What is the function? Emergency hormone. I don't know, it acts on the heart, it acts on the lungs. So all that is in emergency situation. Then the last one is releasing hormone. Releasing hormone is actually they are talking about hypothalamus. So hypothalamus stimulates pituitary gland to release hormone. See, I told hypothalamus is a main one. He is going to regulate pituitary gland. So imagine I am a hypothalamus. So I won't directly go towards the pituitary. So what I will do, I will just send certain hormones. Imagine I am a hypothalamus, right? I am going to send certain hormone. So those hormones are releasing hormone. So those releasing hormone will knock the door of pituitary. Then pituitary turn towards these hormones. Imagine these are the hormones which sent by me. Then it will give instruction. Okay, I am coming from hypothalamus, release growth hormone. Then pituitary says, okay, I am going to release growth hormone. Then it starts releasing growth hormone. So that's why here they are telling releasing hormone. Sends from hypothalamus, stimulate pituitary to release the hormone. Got it? So this is what the table, hope I am very clear about this. Hormones are secreted by endocrine gland and have a specific function. Complete table based on the hormone done. So we have done. So this is what this chapter is about. Hope I am very clear and you have enjoyed the chapter also. So if you like the chapter, if you like this video, just hit a like button and please do share it with your friends. Okay, thanks for watching.